Back at Hagdowlin's place, no one knew what had happened, but both girls were standing there, mouths wide open. Kim Kang-jae was equally shocked and looked over in that direction. He saw Yu Jian calmly throwing Lee Gumin over his shoulder. In front of everyone's astonished eyes, Yu Jian quickly had Lee Gumin under control. Even Hagdowlin couldn't believe it and turned to look at him. Jian, what's going on? Yu Jian held an arrow to Lee Gumin's throat. He spoke calmly. Sorry, I'm fine now. Kim Kang-jae, feeling on edge, muttered, that guy too. Suddenly, he felt a sense of danger. What? He asked, hearing Jihan's voice. It's over now. Dowlin? Hagdowlin raised his hand into a fist. He was ready to use his explosive attack. Let's go back to the past of the villain Lee Gumin in middle school. The classmates around Yu Jian were asking, is Gumin coming back to school today? I wonder if his mom's funeral went smoothly. Yu Jian had been ignored by Lee Gumin, so he could only reply, I haven't been able to get in touch with him. No one else pressed the issue. Then, one of his classmates suddenly spoke up, Hey Jian, are you still doing boxing these days? Jian was surprised but answered, Yeah, but how do you know? The classmate grinned and said, I saw you at the gym yesterday. Haha. Another friend exclaimed, Oh my gosh, you used to practice jujutsu, right? You're way stronger than you look. Jian awkwardly replied, It's just a hobby. Haha. The cheerful conversation filled the room. At that moment, someone was standing behind the classroom door, overhearing everything. Lee Gumin stood there, emotionless, listening to Jian chat with the others. I've been thinking about learning martial arts too, but I'm kind of scared, Jian said. A strange feeling welled up inside Lee Gumin. It was as if the other person had things that Lee Gumin didn't have. At that moment, Lee Gumin watched Jian happily talking with his friends and thought to himself, Well, I'm so exhausted, you're sitting there laughing and having fun with everyone. Lee Gumin's face turned cold. That was the moment, and from then on, after school. Even when Jian came up to him and asked, Gumin, why aren't you carrying your backpack? Let's go together. Lee Gumin remained distant and cold. Isn't today the day you're going to the hospital? He replied. Jian answered, Yeah, it is. But Lee Gumin stayed silent, thinking to himself. Sometimes those feelings could turn into hatred for others without even realizing it. Lee Gumin spoke up, lucky, right? Seeing Jihan's confused expression, he explained the reason behind his jealousy. Because your mom is still alive, and that's the seed of all my resentment. Now he looked around in shock. What? He saw his men lying on the ground, all fallen. Lee Gumin yelled at them. What's going on? Why aren't you getting up? Why are you still lying there? When no one answered, he noticed that the only two people still conscious were two weak girls trembling and hiding in the distance. With his eyes burning with fury, Lee Gumin cursed, Shit, even Kim Kang-jae is down. Unable to accept this defeat, his voice grew louder as he commanded, Get up, you bastards. Standing there, he shouted, I paid you guys a fortune. How is it that none of you can handle a single one of them? You're all more useless than ants. Glancing at Hagdowlin, who was watching him like he was a joke, Lee Gumin realized he was losing. In a panic, he turned and ran. Jian watched him flee, and then he heard a desperate scream behind him. Hey, what are you doing? It turns out that Lee Gumin had gotten so desperate that he grabbed the hair of the other two girls. At least you guys should have gone there and thrown a few punches. I told you, this is a fight, you bitches. The two girls screamed in pain. Let go, you crazy bastard. Lee Gumin gritted his teeth, his face twisted with rage and frustration, and cursed, Son of a bitch. Just then, Hagdowlin walked up behind him and said, You don't know how to fight, do you? You trash. What's it, huh? I bet you're not even good at fighting. Lee Gumin angrily shoved the two girls aside, yelling, Ah, damn it. The two girls cried out in pain, Ah. He stood defensively, eyeing Hagdowlin, stepping back, and made an offer. How much? Whatever that bastard Yu Jian paid you, I can pay you too. Hagdowlin looked at him coldly, his gaze full of disdain, as if Lee Gumin were a clown dancing around. Why would I take money from that guy, you crazy bastard? You're talking nonsense. Don't even open your mouth and say stuff like that. Lee Gumin's blood boiled. He was seething with anger and cursed, You bastard. He turned to find another target, spotting Jian standing off in the distance. Gumin threatened him. Jian, you think you can hit me? I have your pictures and videos. If I showed your mom everything from that place, you think she'd be okay with it? Even if it's just like that day, wouldn't matter, right? At that, Jian flinched, feeling a wave of tension. The phrase that day started to bring back memories. That was the day his relationship with Gumin had changed completely. After school that day, Jian approached Lee Gumin to stop him, trying to reason with him. Why have you been acting like this lately? You're not like this, Gumin. Gumin lost his patience and cursed. Damn it, hey. Fuming, he grabbed Jian by the collar. You think I'm hurting you now? That day became the one Jian regretted most in his entire life. Jian looked at him in panic, trying to argue back. There's no way it's like this. Calm down and listen to me, Gumin. Ji-an tried to make him understand. The people you've been hanging out with lately, they're only with you for your money. What kind of friends are they? I understand that you're exhausted because of your mom's situation, so from now on. But Lee Gubin didn't let him finish and cut him off. What do you understand? Lee Gubin glared at him with disdain and snapped, You've never been through anything like this, so how could you possibly understand what I'm going through? Ji-an was awkward. Well, Lee Gubin didn't let him speak and continued, You don't know anything, yet you just blurt out whatever comes to your mind. No, there's a way for you to understand. Suddenly, Lee Gubin's expression darkened. He had said something related to Ji-an's mom, and it made Ji-an panic, unable to believe it, and enraged. Ji-an thought to himself, hearing those words, that he shouldn't have lost his composure. In the end, Ji-an ended up beating the other guys so badly that he couldn't move. At the principal's office, Lee Gubin's father confronted the school. You think just saying sorry will fix the fact that you've beat my precious son's face to this point? Why didn't his parents come? What's going on? The principal wiped sweat from his brow and quickly tried to reassure him. Sorry. Gubin's dad? Well, Ji-an's dad is on a business trip. His mom is in the hospital right now, so it's difficult for her to come. Suddenly, the door to the office opened and a person entered, breathing heavily. The more fragile the patient, the more important it is to keep their emotions stable. For a mother like her, hearing that her child got into a fight must have been a huge shock. It was Ji-an's mother appearing in the principal's office. I'm really sorry I'm late. Ji-an was horrified, calling out anxiously. Mom! The principal stood up, concerned, and asked, Is your mom okay, Ji-an? Ji-an's mother coughed lightly and replied, Of course I'm fine. I wouldn't have come all the way here if I wasn't. Gasping, she added, I'm Ji-an's mom. Ji-an, still worried, asked, How could you leave the hospital? Weakly, she spoke, Ji-an, my child has made a huge mistake. Cough, I'm sorry. Just after speaking, Ji-an's mother collapsed in front of him, causing him to panic even more. The people in the room were also worried. Gubin's dad, looking confused, said, What's going on? Why, all of a sudden, the principal, panicked, asked Ji-an, your mom. Then Ji-an, terrified, cried out, Mom. Even though he found out the truth pretty late that day, Ji-an's mom was reported to be in a very critical condition. That's when Gubin saw his opportunity. He took advantage of it. After that, Ji-an went through a long period of bullying. A voice rang out in the classroom. What's this? You won't lick it. The bullies excitedly watched as Ji-an knelt on the ground. This guy really is licking it. Shit, this crazy guy will eat anything, even moldy stuff. One of them held up a camera and said, Haha, I definitely have to film this. Who knows, maybe it'll come in handy later. Gubin and his followers began isolating Ji-an in their own way. Lee Gubin bent down, grinning and mocked him. So how does it feel, Ji-an? I've heard you quit all your martial arts classes, huh? He grabbed Ji-an's head and taunted him. Seeing your mom faint like that, you're scared, aren't you? Don't worry, we can bond over this from now on. The other members of Lee Gubin's group joined in with their mocking. But if Ji-an's mom ever found out how badly her son was being bullied and treated like trash, she would probably be in shock. I don't even know if she could wake up after hearing that. It's sickening. Ha ha ha. Lee Gubin added fuel to the fire. Before it said you guys approached me because of money. What kind of friends are you, huh? Ji-an quietly thought to himself, I was afraid of hurting her again, so all I could do was endure. I couldn't do anything else. Ji-an felt tense as Lee Gubin continued. So tell me, out of all the people standing here, is there anyone who's actually your friend? All of his classmates' eyes turned toward Ji-an, their gazes sharp enough to feel like they were going to tear him apart. From that moment on, Ji-an was completely alone. Back in the present, Lee Gubin went back to his old tricks, holding up his phone with a smug expression. Ha ha ha, why aren't you answering? Are you scared? Should I just send this to your mom? Are you going to kneel now? Before Lee Gubin could react, Do Wan appeared out of nowhere, snatched the phone from him and said, Is this how you've been controlling Ji-an? Do Wan carefully scrolled through the phone. Since I can't go through each one to delete them, I'll just delete everything. Do you use iCloud? Lee Gubin kept laughing confidently. Ha ha ha, you idiot. Even if you delete it, I've got another phone hidden somewhere. And of course, all the videos and photos are saved there. Do Wan's voice rang out, but remember this. I don't know what happened before, but now I'm the one standing by Ji-an's side. Ji-an froze, stunned by what he heard. Do Wan grabbed Lee Gubin by the collar and warned him, if you pull any more of this stupid crap, I'll tear you apart. Even though I want to do it right now. Lee Gubin's face was cold as ice. He then threw him down in front of Ji-an. So how are you going to deal with him today? It's all up to Ji-an, because he's the one who's going to deal with all the mess you've caused. Ji-an looked at Lee Gubin, who was sitting on the ground, groaning in pain. He cursed angrily, Shit, yeah, I'm done for. He thought to himself that ever since his relationship with Guman started falling apart, he had been on his own. But looking back, he realized Guman had been alone too, just like him. Lee Guman calmly stood up. All I need to do is delete all the photos and videos I have, right? And from now on, I'll never show up in front of Jian again. Jian's eyes widened. He thought to himself that after all, he had left his old friend alone and run away. He wasn't even sure if he did the right thing. So everything Guman had been doing to him up until now. Suddenly, Lee Guman pulled out a broken glass bottle from somewhere, still speaking. Just forgive me, even just this once. He quickly flipped the script, holding the bottle and aiming to stab Ha Dawan in the face. Damn it, that bastard dares to threaten me. Before he could finish speaking, a foot kicked him right in the face. Jian thought to himself, I'll use this to deal with you. Ha Dawan was shocked, and the stance he had been ready to take to defend himself froze. He looked at Jian, who calmly kicked Lee Guman away. Dawan walked over to check on him. Hey Dawan, are you hurt anywhere? Ha Dawan snapped out of it and finally responded. Aha, I'm fine. He then asked, But Jian, I'm a little curious about what happened earlier. Yu Jian answered calmly, Huh? Curious about what? Ha Dawan asked, How are you so good at fighting? Looking back at Lee Guman, who was now down, he thought to himself, I guess the mission's over now. On the way home, I listened as Jian shared everything he had been through. Jian explained, I guess going through stuff like that made me more withdrawn. Even in high school, I still got bullied. Jian added, I've been hit like that before back at a karaoke room. Ha Dawan was stunned. Oh, he could only listen as Jihan shared his feelings. In that situation, I really wanted to run away. I didn't know if I'd hurt the person I was going to face, so I ended up doing nothing. Do you think I'm pathetic? Hearing him say that, Ha Dawan wasn't sure how to comfort him. While Jihan was apologizing, saying, I dragged you into this because of me today, Ha Dawan suddenly spoke up. Jian, you were really trustworthy just now. He pretended to be scared and said, especially at the end when he threw the bottle at me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to stop it and would have been seriously hurt. That bottle was sharp. Jian silently stared at him. He remembered what his mother had once said. I hope you'll have a friend who could be a strong support for you. You're like me, so you're a bit fragile. I hope you'll have someone strong by your side to protect you, just like I would. At that time, Yu Jian helplessly said, I don't look weak anymore, Mom. His mom had thought for a moment, then replied, Well, in that case, Jian, you should be the strong friend for someone else. Do you understand that, my son? If you have a friend you can rely on like that, then no matter how tough or painful things get, you'll have the courage not to run away. Jian didn't fully understand his mom's words, but he stayed quiet and listened. He joked, That's kind of creepy, Mom. His mom laughed and said, Ha, those are the words of someone who's lived half their life. Now back to the present, Ha Dawan nervously asked, but it said it's going to get revenge. What if it sends videos and pictures to your mom? What should we do then? Even though I warned it, you can never be sure about these things. Jian didn't know what to do either. All he could say was, let me think about what we should do. He didn't know how long it would take, but he decided to tell his mom little by little. In the past, he had always run away from problems, but now he couldn't keep living like that. Jian made a firm decision in his heart. Thinking back to that moment, Ha Dawan had stood by his side. He smiled and said, Dawan, it's because you are with me that I have the courage to do that. Thank you. Ha Dawan stayed silent for a moment. After a while, he hugged Jian and said, Ugh, this is so disgusting. Yu Jian, feeling embarrassed, asked, What? The system notification popped up. Rescue mission complete. Ha Dawan let out a sigh of relief as he sat on the playground. Ha! Let's see what the reward is. The system screen displayed mission complete. You have received a hidden item. Ha Dawan, curious, asked, What's a hidden item? A dark energy radiated out. Ha Dawan stood there confused. Ha! What's this? It doesn't look lucky at all, he said, cautiously eyeing the object in his hand, which was still glowing with a deep black light. A notification popped up in front of Ha Dawan. Quest completed. You have received a hidden item. He opened his palm, and a dark aura appeared on it. Ha Dawan sighed, What is this? It doesn't look lucky at all. After a while, the object began to take on a more defined shape. Ha Dawan's eyes went wide. This. He looked down at the small item resting in his palm and asked himself, Is this a lock? Ha Dawan sat on the slide, muttering to himself, First I get a key, and now a lock. At this rate, I might end up with an automatic lock too. This is really weird. To avoid further confusion, he decided to check the details of the lock first. He decided to take a look at the item's information. A system notification appeared with the lock's details. Dark lock, hidden item. He read the name and wondered, Dark lock. So what's its purpose? After reading the description of the lock's function, Ha Dawan couldn't believe his eyes and muttered, What? He looked at the function list one more time, stunned, and exclaimed, "What? This can actually go back to the present." Adonis wondered to himself, if it's true, doesn't that mean it's a hack? He was sweating all over, mumbling to himself, "But isn't this kind of dangerous?" The setting sun cast its golden rays over the campus of Adonis' school. He was completely drained of energy, slumped over his desk, and weakly said, "Finally, it's over. Midterm exams are done." Adonis lazily tilted his head back and talked to Yu Ji-han. He gratefully said, "Ji-han, a lot of the stuff you showed me in the exam helped me a lot. Thanks to you, I made it through." Ji-han chuckled and humbly responded, "Not at all. It's all because you worked hard. By the way, didn't you get any sleep?" He sighed. "You're way too hardworking," Adonis remarked. "Oh, I'm dying. I'm never cramming like this again," he silently promised himself. "From now on, I'll make sure to study regularly." Adonis suddenly sat up and asked Ji-han, "Are you going to the hospital today?" Ji-han nodded and admitted, "Yeah, I've been so busy with school that I haven't been able to visit my mom at the hospital. After that, I'm going on a school trip." Ji-han shared his plans. "I'll probably be at the hospital with my mom all week." Then he asked Dowan, "What about you, Dowan? What are you planning to do this week?" Dowan, hearing that, fell silent for a moment. After thinking for a bit, he finally responded, "I have a place I need to go to." Later that afternoon, Han Yun-sung and Dowan sat together on a bench. Yun-sung casually asked, "You don't have any guesses about the culprit?" Dowan lowered his gaze to the ground, lost in thought, and replied, "Not at all." Feeling a sense of helplessness, Dowan continued, "Right after my dad passed, that center disappeared completely. There's no information left about the people who were there at the time." Suddenly something clicked in his mind. He looked up, realization crossing his face, and said, "Wait, I think I have an idea. The building where that center used to be might still be there. Maybe there's some old paperwork left behind." Determined, Dowan decided to take matters into his own hands. As he pulled out his phone to search for directions, he muttered to himself, "It's been a long time since I've been in this area, so I'm not quite sure anymore." At a junction, Dowan recognized the place and glanced at the map. "Oh, right. I think if I turn right there, it's the way." When he reached the turn, he looked ahead at the street and thought to himself, the Sunshine Foundation dissolved 3 years ago, but the building's still there. That must be where the center used to have its rest stop. Dowan continued down the road, still searching, unsure if there were any remaining clues. He silently made up his mind to keep looking for a lead no matter what. "I'll spend the whole week going over this place," he thought. As he walked, he spotted something a bit confusing and wondered to himself, "Huh?" Looking at the building in front of him, he couldn't help but say, "That's strange." He walked closer to the building, then firmly said, "This is definitely the place, but I still have some doubts." Suddenly, Dowan froze, his face turning pale as he asked, "Has the building been destroyed?" An old man, leaning on a cane, walked out and immediately corrected him. "Destroyed? No, it's just being reused." Dowan's face showed confusion when he saw the old man. Noticing his blank expression, the old man gave a stern explanation. "It's been renovated. They're fixing up the old building." The old man slowly approached and explained again, then asked, "This building's been so old that no one has wanted to rent it for the past 3 years. Do you understand the landlord's struggle?" Dowan finally recognized who he was, the landlord. He pointed toward the building under renovation and politely asked the old man, "Excuse me, was there once a Sunshine Foundation Center here?" The old man asked him in a confused tone, "Oh, how did you know about that?" He continued with more questions. "Are you from that center?" Dowan quickly denied it. He explained to the old man, "No, I'm the son of Hajino, who used to represent that center." The old man did respond right away, just muttering, Still a little confused, he asked, "So, why are you here?" Dowan quickly stated the reason for his visit. "Well, I thought there might still be some items left related to the center." The old man asked, "Leftover items, why?" He quickly dismissed Dowan's thought, saying no when the center closed down. To reassure him, he added, "The place was cleaned so thoroughly that not even a speck of dust was left." Dowan, surprised, asked, "So, there's nothing left here at all?" The old man suddenly seemed to remember something, turned around, and walked away, telling Dowan to wait a moment. "Oh, wait here for a bit." Dowan was a little puzzled by the old man's actions. As the sky got darker, the old man returned and handed him a box, saying, "Here, take this." Dowan took it with both hands, still a bit confused about what it was. He looked at the object in his hand and asked the old man, "What is this?" The old man spoke up, "Clearly there's nothing left at that place, and no one has ever moved in there." He continued, sharing his own discovery. "But before the building was renovated, while I was checking the inside, I found this neatly placed on the floor." The old man added an important detail. "That spot used to be where your father had his office." He spoke sincerely to Dowan. At first, I thought about throwing it away, but something about it just didn't sit right with me. That's why I kept it until now. It didn't seem right to just toss it out, so I decided to hold on to it. Hadawan stood there confused. The old man went on to explain, second, the fact that this thing just appeared there. That's not normal. He still felt uneasy about the situation. Hadawan opened the box to see what was inside. The old man described the contents of the box. It's a broken glass kept inside the box. It didn't seem like it was just a coincidence. Looking at the shattered glass in the box, Hadawan felt a bit confused. He questioned himself, wondering, broken glass, did someone deliberately leave it there? The old man looked at him and said, I don't know how to handle this. He shared his thoughts, if you take it, I'd feel a lot better. Hadawan caught on to the important point. His father had never worn glasses. He thought to himself, whose glasses are these then? He decided to take them home to examine them, quietly thinking, maybe this has nothing to do with the Sunshine Foundation after all. The old man spoke seriously. This is all that's left from that place. Hadawan politely spoke as he was about to leave. Thank you, sir. I'll take my leave now. He felt like he might have found an important clue and thought, I'll take this with me first, just in case. Before Hadawan could leave, the old man, looking somewhat confused, asked him, but hey, why are you suddenly here looking for something today? Hadawan heard his question and wondered, I don't necessarily need to tell him the truth, not until everything is clear. He quickly came up with a response, I just miss my dad. Hadawan made up his mind to keep his secret from everyone. The old man turned away, but not before criticizing him. Good grief, what kind of man is so weak? If it's all done, then hurry up and leave. Hadawan bowed deeply, replying, yes, sir. Please take care. As the old man walked away, he felt a heavy weight in his heart. He wiped his tears and sighed. That kid really moves me. In the evening at a restaurant, someone spoke up. Yes. The young man with greenish yellow hair and a sleek grin addressed the person across from him. May I ask why you're here, sir? He was a member of Iljin Gang Wank, part of Do Wan Chad Jinho, a consultant at his secret detective agency. A young man covered in tattoos, he mentioned the names of himself and his close friends, Yu Jihan and Hadawan. He angrily cursed at both of them. Those two trash. It turned out to be Lee Guman. Upon hearing this, Chad Jinho didn't respond but remained professional and spoke up. Yes, but you visited a few days ago, and I'd like to confirm your request asking for the third-year seniors to maintain discipline. Lee Guman crossed his arms, listening to Chad Jinho, his face full of arrogance. Chad Jinho continued typing on his computer, preparing to mention that if the customer had additional requests, there would be extra fees. A stack of cash was thrown onto the table. Lee Guman thought he was being looked down upon, and in anger, he cursed loudly. Damn it, you think I don't have money? Chad Jinho gave a dangerous order. Just do exactly as I asked, and that's all. Chad Jinho remained calm and unfazed in response to the threat. There were two young men covered in tattoos with strong builds sitting nearby drinking water. One of them put his glass down on the table. Chad Jinho scratched his head and sighed heavily. He shared his opinion. I think if you have money, everything can be sorted out quickly. Just control your temper, young master. Chad Jinho quickly regained his cheerful attitude, his eyes lighting up at the mention of money. He smiled and said, oh, you seem like a truly wonderful person. In that case, we'll gladly fulfill your request right away. Chad Jinho asked Lee Guman to repeat the names. Please say the names and the school of the targets again. He quickly responded, Yu Jihan and Hadawan, Shin High School. Chad Jinho typed on the keyboard again, Yu Jihan, huh? He squinted, grinning as he asked Lee Guman, did you just say Hadawan? Lee Guman, a bit confused, asked, yes, what's the matter? Chad Jinho continued to search for information on the two, but dismissed it. No problem. He looked at the information on Dawan, but didn't say anything. To be sure, Chad Jinho confirmed again. There's absolutely no problem. The information displayed had Dawan, 18 years old, Sheehan High School. Special note, rumors say he was part of a huge victory, defeating a representative from Bongshan. Just looking at the photo, you can tell he's no ordinary person. Lee Guman continued to provide information about the two individuals. As I said, those guys are really good at fighting. If we send anyone ordinary, they probably won't have a bone left in their bodies. Chad Jinho let out a cold laugh, acknowledging the advice with a thank you. Yes, thank you for your advice. He spoke confidently, but there was no need to worry. Chad Jinho continued firmly, because we have experts who are perfectly suited for situations like this. On the bridge at night, Chad Jinho promoted the abilities of the subordinates he had sent out. Their skills are unquestionable. These guys just recently got out of the orphanage. Two young men were twisting someone's arm behind their back. Chad Jinho confidently declared, full of energy. A group of people lay sprawled out on the ground, and one young man was twisting someone's arm. One young man, looking a bit crazy, shouted to his teammate, hey, what about the head? He was a member of Siwon, Ohyosio, a second-year high school student, the crazy little brother. His victim screamed in pain. The other man, standing off to the side, reported to the command center, "It's all cleaned up." Another young man, looking like the one from earlier, teased, "Hey, little bro, you've got to show some respect to your seniors." He was a member of Siwon, Otesio, a second-year high school student, the crazy older brother. Ohyosio threw someone into the river, responding, "What's there to respect about twins?" Otesio wasn't far behind, holding someone upside down by their legs and threatening, "If I let go, you'll drop right there." Lee Kuvin still seemed a bit doubtful. Cha Jin-ho spoke up confidently, "So, there's nothing to worry about." He grinned in a sneaky way and added, "Just trust us and leave it to us, sir." The following week, many cars were parked in the schoolyard and students gathered around ready for their field trip. Hadawan thought to himself, the second-year field trip has finally arrived. He stood by the vehicle and shouted, "Second-year students, bus number 3. Second-year students, bus number 3. Hadawan reminisced and sighed. Time really flies. He looked around at everyone and thought, everyone's so excited. Around him, people were chatting excitedly. Hadawan couldn't help but think to himself, I've never been this excited about a school field trip. Still, he muttered, "Oh, I honestly didn't look forward to this at all." Feeling a bit down, he mumbled, "I should have just stayed home and played games," when suddenly Ju Erin walked up to greet him. "Dawan." Hadawan was confused, not sure who was calling him, and turned around. "Ha." A bit surprised, he called out her name loudly, "Erin." She enthusiastically waved at him. Ju Erin walked up to him and asked, "You're really looking forward to this picnic, aren't you?" Hadawan, flustered because of the beautiful woman with him, eagerly replied, "Of course. This might be the most fun picnic of my life." Yu Jihan also approached to greet him. "Dawan, is that you?" Hadawan got even more excited when he saw his best friend. "Ah, Jihan, you're here too. Just in time." He exclaimed, "How lucky is that?" Hadawan thought to himself, but with Jihan and Ju Erin here, this picnic might actually be pretty great. Hadawan happily looked at his two friends. Inside the car, someone was already sitting. Oteziub was on the phone with Cha Jin-ho. He asked, "Did everyone remember the client's requests?" Cha Jin-ho continued, "Anyway, we're just going out to work, so don't stress too much. He just asked that we go on as usual and do whatever we normally do." Cha Jin-ho added, "Turn them into total messes." The wacko little brother lay lazily on the bench. His older brother looked out the window at the two people. Otezio called out to his younger brother, "Hey, little bro." Ohyosio replied, "Yeah, big bro." Hadawan excitedly muttered to himself, "A picnic, something to look forward to." The other two shared the same thought. The bus arrived at their destination and stopped neatly on the side of the road. A girl who looked like a bookworm turned around and spoke to the group, "Well, we're here. Please get off the bus in order." Erin's best friend, still half asleep, drooled as she barely opened her eyes and muttered, "Huh? What?" Still in a sleepy haze, she wondered, "What's going on? Where are we?" Erin, already prepared to get off the bus, scolded her friend, "How can you still be sleeping at a time like this?" She added, "This is the spot we're going to for the year-end picnic." As soon as she stepped off the bus, Erin stretched and mumbled, "Working Jeonju." Her friend, following behind, yawned continuously. Their first stop was a building with classic, old-fashioned architecture. Hadawan thought to himself, this year-end picnic really is. He looked around at everyone, eagerly molding clay, and wondered, are we making pottery? The first activity of the picnic was a pottery-making experience. Hadawan, not in the mood for this, turned to Jihan and said, "We're not elementary school kids, you know." Jihan, however, was excited and replied, "But you can take it home as a souvenir. Isn't that great?" Hadawan thought to himself, muttering, "A keepsake." He looked at the mug he had just shaped, wondering, if I think of it that way, it's not so bad, right? Every time I see it, I'll remember the school's picnic. I actually made something pretty nice. Heh. Suddenly, someone coldly slammed his mug onto the ground. Hadawan was caught off guard, freezing in place. The man looked at his creation with disgust and said, "I can't put this garbage into the sacred kiln fire." The man was a ceramic artist, Master Choi Takjin. Hadawan, annoyed, yelled, "Hey, that's my pottery." A young female guide quickly stepped forward, scolding Choi Takjin. "Master Choi, I told you not to come to the students' experience area." Still a little confused, she asked, "Why did you come here?" Hadawan, feeling disappointed, muttered, "It's my keepsake." Choi Takjin, explaining his reason for being there, said he was looking for an hair, but then something caught his attention. Choi Takjin walked over to Jihan and asked, "Did you make this?" Jihan, slightly scared, stammered, "Just like Hadawan." "Ah, yes, I made it." The old man sighed, "Oh my god, that." Takjin continued, "Isn't that the national treasure? No. 91, the pottery figure of a rider on a horse?" He couldn't help but praise Jihan's work, impressed by how perfectly it had been recreated. He was quite skeptical, though, given the boy's background. "Who exactly are you?" he asked. Jihan nervously explained, "Well, when I was younger, I took a pottery class and had Do Wan is just holding my deformed cup." Taechin excitedly suggested, "Oh, you become my hair." Jihan laughed in response. "Well, not exactly, ha ha ha." Do Wan stood frozen, confused. What does this mean? The next activity of the first day of the trip, lunch, was still at the pottery studio. The yard was filled with ceramic jars drying in the sun. One of the boys, feeling defeated, sighed, "I'm so hungry. What are we having for lunch?" His friend casually replied, "Of course, we're having a picnic-style meal." Another one chimed in, "Spicy pork stir-fry." Even the teacher seemed unsure where they were going and asked the students, "Where are we heading?" One student complained, "I'm starving, teacher." Another asked, "Aren't we supposed to be going to eat now?" Someone else added, "Yeah, isn't it lunchtime?" The teacher said to them, "We're having lunch here." One of the students, somewhat in disbelief, asked again, "What?" Another student, also confused, asked, "But this is a pottery place." Inside, Choi Taek-jin was pushing a pizza into the oven. Sweat was dripping from his face as he explained, "Pottery, it's fired in the kiln at high temperatures. Pizza tastes twice as good when it's baked in a ceramic oven." The teacher walked over to the oven and marveled, "Wow, you're making pizza in a pottery kiln. That's amazing." Choi Taek-jin put his hands on his hips and asked the teacher, "How's the taste?" "I kneaded the cheese into the dough and left it in the jar." Ha Daoman, while taking a bite of pizza, was still annoyed about what happened earlier and thought to himself, "No, I can't put my pottery in there." He also had some doubts and wondered, is it really okay to put pizza in that? Jihan took a bite and praised, "Wow, this is really good." Choi Taek-jin noticed Jihan's comment and approached him with a suggestion, "If you become my hair, I'll teach you the pizza recipe I learned in Italy." Jihan broke out in a cold sweat and awkwardly laughed. Ha ha. The next day, on the first day of the field trip, they visited a museum. The museum everyone visited was the National Museum. Ha Daowan walked into the museum and let out a big, tired yawn. He sighed and said to Jihan, "Visiting the museum after lunch is like taking a sleeping pill." Jihan agreed with him. "Yeah, it's a bit boring." Ha Daowan quickly shook off his tiredness and said, "Anyway, the rest of today's schedule is..." The other girls spotted Erin and started talking. "Hey, isn't that Ju Erin from 7th grade?" The girl next to her nodded in agreement. "Wow, Ju Erin's pretty popular here too." Ha Daowan heard them and started looking around, searching for Ju Erin's face. He quietly thought to himself, "Erin." The girl hesitated for a moment and asked herself, "But isn't this a bit too flashy?" Ju Erin had added a sparkly crown to her head, which made her beauty stand out even more. She walked over to tease her best friend and greeted her. "So, what do you think? Isn't it perfect?" Her friend, looking embarrassed, responded, "Oh, so embarrassing. Please just stop talking to me." She crossed her arms and criticized, "Even if it's a souvenir, who actually lives like this?" Ju Erin, a little defensive, replied, "It's beautiful." Erin grabbed the crown and chased after her to give it to her to try on. "Try it on too, it's made of plastic so it's really light." She ran away shouting, "You're so annoying." Ha Daowan saw this and didn't know what to say. He thought to himself, the crown of Shinama-chong really completes her beauty. Ha Daowan was about to make a guess. Could it be Ju Erin? After the tour, everyone gathered together. The teacher spoke up and asked, "Did you all enjoy the museum tour?" Everyone answered in unison, "Yes, sir." The teacher, clearly annoyed, commented, "You guys answered like a bunch of robots." "Well, anyway, you've all worked hard today." He continued, "From now until dinner, you have free time. Feel free to move around and enjoy this outing." Everyone cheered, "Yeah." The teacher then warned them, "If I catch any of you doing anything strange, I'll send you straight back to Seoul. If anything happens, call me immediately." Everyone responded in unison, "Yes, sir." Ha Daowan and Jian decided to split off from the group. Ha Daowan suggested to his best friend, "Let's take a walk around." Jian agreed, "Sure, let's go." The first day of the trip, free time. The streets were bustling with people. Oh, Hyoseo asked Tazio, "Big brother, is it okay to keep doing this?" The two of them had been watching Ha Daowan for a while. Ha Daowan was holding a long ice cream, sticking out his tongue to lick it, and then said, "Now, I just want to fight a Ha Daowan right now." Oh, Tazio waited for the employee to finish making his ice cream and replied, "Little brother, it's not time to act yet. Wait a little longer." He was annoyed at having to keep giving his younger brother advice. "Little brother, out of all your problems, do you know that your lack of patience is the biggest one?" The employee finished the ice cream and spoke up, "Here's your order, sir." Tazio, still trying to teach his younger brother a lesson, added, "You can't mess things up no matter what." But then that long ice cream fell onto his shirt. The employee was a little startled and apologized. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll clean it up right away." Hyeoseob leaned in to look, adding fuel to the fire. Oh, this is your favorite shirt, huh? Looks like you're in trouble now. You must want to get hit. Taeseob's face darkened, and he didn't say anything. Hyeoseob, walking behind him, laughed and teased, "Ha ha, are you okay, big brother? Could it be?" Wacko Big Brother was still wiping the stain off his shirt. Taeseob, frustrated, thought to himself, what is this patience nonsense? And then he went ahead and gave that poor employee a beating. Hadaoin bought a coin-shaped snack to try. He took a bite and exclaimed, wow, this is better than I thought. He quietly thought to himself, this is great. Jian looked at him, still hungry, and teased, yeah, you just had pizza, but you can still eat more. Hadaoin realized a few things on this trip. He thought to himself, so this is what a school-field trip is really like. He widened his eyes, remembering the past. Before, Hadaoin thought, I had to sit next to the teacher all alone by myself. During the entire trip, he sat in a corner, scrolling through his phone, feeling upset at night. The others made him move to a different room, and a whole group of kids bully him. At night, they smeared toothpaste on his face and drew on it. Hadaoin was weak and could only endure it. He thought, that was the most painful field trip of my life, and it made me pretend to be asleep. He stayed positive, despite the sadness. Those days were all in the past now. Hadaoin's tears kept flowing for some reason. He looked up, wiped his eyes, and sighed. Oh, why am I crying all of a sudden? Hadaoin thought, shit. Jian suggested, hey Daoin, let's go to this place for a bit. Hadaoin followed him, confused, and asked, where are we going? Jian vaguely explained, everyone says if you're in Gyeongju, you have to visit that place at least once. When they arrived at the racetrack, Hadaoin was amazed and exclaimed, a four-wheel motorcycle. He looked at Jian with some doubt and asked, so, you can drive a four-wheel motorcycle without a license? Jian nodded and answered, yeah, it's fine. Suddenly, he heard someone screaming in fear. Hadaoin's eyes widened as he looked in the direction of the sound, wondering, is that the farm owner chasing after two girls? The farm owner yelled, no, stop. You can't drive like that. Hey, student. Daoin probably realized it was Erin and her best friend. Over there, the owner, sweating profusely, asked them, had you two ever ridden a bike before? He chased after them, urgently suggesting, no, it's too dangerous. First, get down here and I'll give you your money back. The friend sitting behind Erin, completely drenched in sweat and terrified, urged her daring friend, come on, what's the big deal? Let's just skip it. I still want to live. The owner clearly didn't expect to meet someone so reckless. Erin, without any fear, responded, it's easy. I just want to try once. Hadaoin watched them, wondering, could that be Erin? He stepped up and asked the person he secretly liked, Erin, are you okay? Ju Erin looked at him and responded, Daoin? The boss seemed a bit confused, looking at them with a blank expression. He asked him, do you two know each other? Hadaoin replied, yes, we do. The boss asked again, did you come here to drive too? Hadaoin politely answered, yes, that's right. The boss thought for a moment, mumbling to himself, if they both share a ride, the refund wouldn't be too little. So, in that case, he continued, perfect timing. His friend couldn't take it anymore and got out of the car. The boss suggested to them, how about one man and one woman share a car? Hadaoin was confused and thought to himself, what is this bag talking about? The boss then turned to Jian and asked, student, have you driven before? Jian nodded, yes, I learned at a driving center before. Hadaoin thought for a moment, so we switched groups and drive together. Could it be? He blushed, thinking about it. Erin leaned forward and said with a smile, that's lucky, Daoin. If it's you, it'll be fine. She stretched her hand out and suggested to Hadaoin, let's drive together. He silently thanked the boss 1,000 times. Thank you so much. Hadaoin drove Erin around on all kinds of roads. Even though he was driving fast, sweat was dripping down his face. Hadaoin thought to himself, it's too hot. Erin leaned in and hugged him from behind. Hadaoin couldn't help but think, this is too close. Erin's impressive chest pressed against Hadaoin's back. No wonder sweat was pouring down. He thought, my heart. Erin felt like it wasn't enough and urged him, hurry up, go faster. Hadaoin's face turned bright red as he pushed himself to go faster to please the beautiful woman. He thought, my heart feels like it's going to explode. Erin noticed his driving skills and complimented him, wow, Daoin, you're really good at driving this thing. Hadaoin barely heard her and wondered to himself, driving? Oh, am I really that hot right now? Erin didn't understand what he meant and asked, Hadaoin thought to himself, I don't even know what I'm saying. Erin, still cheerful, thanked him, thanks so much, Daoin. Because of you, I'm getting to enjoy this amazing atmosphere. Hadaoin bit his lip, his face still flushed. He thought to himself, isn't this getting a little too close? People on the street saw Hao Quan carrying Aaron and couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh!" One person stared at the two of them and wondered, "Who is that girl? What is she doing?" A guy who looked a bit rough saw Aaron's face and sighed, "Wow, she's gorgeous. I've never seen a face like hers before." Another person made a guess she must be a student from another school, probably on a field trip. "Look at her, she definitely looks like the rebellious type." The group of young men kept chatting about Hadawan and Aaron. "Whoa, I'm so jealous of that guy." Another one joked, "Should I steal his girlfriend? Haha." But it was the guy with the blonde hair who was struck by love at first sight. Aaron found an excuse to start a conversation with Dowan, cheerfully saying, "The last time we met was at the internet cafe, right? It feels like we always run into each other by chance. It's pretty amazing." Dowan was a little surprised and asked, "Really?" But inside, he was thinking about something else. "That's right. But last time, I even hit Aaron on the head." He remembered the awful moment when he raised his hammer and struck it down on her head. Dowan silently thought to himself, "I've definitely failed at building a proper relationship." Two people walked past a bakery and the sound of a loudspeaker echoed. "Specialty of Gyeongju. Gyeongju bread, the perfect souvenir from Gyeongju." Dowan, still wanting to build a relationship with her, thought to himself, "But what if we're on the same bus for this trip?" As their vehicle got closer to the bakery, the announcement continued, "Gyeongju bread, come here." Dowan quietly thought, "If I say something emotional right now, this might be my chance to improve our relationship." He spoke softly, "You're like a baby stroller." He turned to look at Aaron, his eyes sparkling, and added, "Because you're burning me up." In his head, he thought, such a poetic line, but he feared his flirtation would make her run off. Aaron, feeling nauseous for some reason, went pale. Dowan silently wondered, "Did I mess up?" Quickly, Dowan tried to save the situation. He awkwardly apologized. "Sorry, Ju Aaron. I can't believe I just said something so disgusting." Ju Aaron explained her reaction. "Ah, no. It's just that I hate loud music." "Wow," Dowan finally understood. "Huh? We'll get past it quickly." The two of them have returned to the racetrack. Dowan asked, "How are you feeling now, Ju Aaron?" Ju Aaron responded, "Yeah, I'm fine now." Dowan sat on the bench and asked her, "Do you think you'll be okay with the event tomorrow night? The loud music is no joke." Ju Aaron had already thought it through. "Well, in that case, I'll just sneak out by myself." Dowan, a little curious, asked, "What are you planning to do while waiting?" Ju Aaron paused for a moment thinking, then said, "Well, we could take a walk around here." She looked a bit disappointed as she continued, "It's a shame I have to leave early tomorrow morning. I thought we could watch the stars there." Dowan responded, "Oh, I could ask the friend who came with me last time too." Ju Aaron replied, "Maybe he's already caught up in some other plans." Just then, Jihan's voice echoed, "Are you guys back already?" The two of them turned at the same time. Jihan was carrying the short-haired girl. Dowan was a little surprised and stammered, "Jihan, you?" Dowan, still in shock, exclaimed, "What the heck are you doing?" Jihan, slowly walking toward them while carrying the short-haired girl, awkwardly explained, "There was an accident on the way. Haha." The short-haired girl blushed and stared at Jihan without blinking. She remembered the moment when the two of them were walking on water, and she asked Jihan, "I told you right, Jihan. This car works better than it looks." Jihan explained, "I used to study at a sports academy for a short time." The short-haired girl, slightly confused, asked, "Really? I didn't know that." Suddenly, water splashed into her eyes. She gasped, "Oh, water in my eyes." Jihan reminded her, "Hey, if you let go, it's really dangerous." As they passed over a rough patch of ground, the car tilted a bit. The short-haired girl fell off the vehicle and plunged into the water. She thought she would be hurt, but luckily she was saved just in time. Jihan quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, are you okay? Are you feeling better?" He blamed himself, saying, "I'm really sorry. I should have paid more attention. I'm just glad I got to you in time." The short-haired girl, supported by him, had her face as red as a tomato. Jihan asked her, "Doesn't hurt?" Their car had flipped over 90 degrees. When they got back to the hotel, Jihan continued, "And that's what happened. The first day of our trip to the accommodation." Jihan went on after that. He said he was exhausted, so I carried him. Dowan looked surprised. "Oh." Dowan then understood. "So that's why you were holding the princess." He chuckled, evaluating his best friend. "Jihan, you're bolder than I thought. I might have just pulled someone up." Yu Jihan, looking like a clueless fawn, asked, "Really?" Dowan teased, "You've picked up quite the move, sir." Jihan awkwardly tried to explain. "Ha ha, it wasn't like that. Ha ha." The two of them entered the room. Jihan sighed. "Well, instead of going to an island or overseas, we found a great place to stay." Jihan agreed with his thought. Exactly. He stepped in, inspecting the room. The double room was beautiful and comfortable. Dowan, exhausted, flopped onto the bed. He groaned, "Ha, probably because we walked around all day. I think I could fall asleep right now." Jian chuckled and asked him, "Do you have fun today?" Hadawan, with a satisfied expression, asked again, "So tomorrow will be the same, right? It'll be another fun trip, right?" On the second day of the trip, while exploring the historical site, the tour guide introduced everyone to the tombs of the kings who once ruled the region around Jeonju. The next activity was a visit to the National Temple. The photographer gathered everyone together for a group photo and said, "Hey, get ready for the picture." Hadawan and Jian both smiled brightly, clearly enjoying the moment. The day continued with a visit to the Hanok village. Erin and her short-haired friend were also there. Erin asked her best friend, "How's it going?" The short-haired girl quickly snapped several photos of her friend and complimented her, "You look amazing." Erin felt something and said, "Oh." Seeing her friend's reaction, the short-haired girl curiously asked, "What's wrong? Did something happen?" Erin replied, "No, it's just, I feel like." Erin continued, "It's like someone is staring at me." Her short-haired friend, always optimistic, responded, "Maybe a guy or two are just checking you out." Still, he couldn't shake a strange feeling that she couldn't quite put into words. And just as Erin thought, two people were indeed watching her. On the second day of the trip, they visited a museum. This time, it was the National History Museum. After the tour, Hadawan sighed and said, I'm so bored." Jian chuckled and responded, "I get it." Hyoseo and Taesiot were sitting in the car. Taesiot turned to his younger brother and said, "Hang in there, little bro. It won't be much longer. Just be patient." Hyoseo, getting a bit impatient, asked, "Are you still willing to wait, big bro? How much longer do we have to wait?" Wacko big brother tapped his phone and answered, "Tonight we act." Wacko little brother nodded in agreement. "Got it." That evening at the auditorium, the MC shouted, "Students, let's hear you scream." All the students immediately cheered loudly. The MC then offered a small prize. "We'll give 5 boxes of choco pie to the 4 classes that shout the loudest." He then pointed the microphone at the crowd. On the second day of the trip, the entertainment activities continued. The MC spoke again. "Next, the girls in hot outfits will come out." He introduced them. "This is the stage for the girls from the dance club." He pointed to some chairs and asked, "Do you see the chairs on the stage? Who will be the lucky guy to sit in one of them and enjoy the dance right in front of him?" The group of eager young people below raised their hands enthusiastically, shouting, "Pick me, pick me." The MC sighed with a look of regret and said, "Oh, that's the seat reserved for their boyfriends." The crowd instantly deflated, their faces falling, tears in their eyes. They cursed under their breath. "Dan, just kill me already." The MC called out, "All right, can the boyfriends please come up to the stage?" Hadawan chuckled and spoke up, glancing at them. He swore that he was single, but now he was hopping around in front of his boyfriend. Did he find that kind of pathetic? He laughed. This is so boring." He folded his arms, looking forward to the drama unfolding. When he turned around, he noticed Yu Jian's seat was empty. Hadawan was puzzled and muttered to himself, "Huh?" He questioned silently, "Where did he go?" Moments later, Jian appeared on stage. A short-haired girl looking guilty apologized to him. "I'm sorry. Please help me this time." Her eyes avoided his as she explained, "I'm the only one here without a boyfriend. Her bio says she's the best friend of Ju Erin, Choi Mini." The dance club. Jihan gave a hesitant smile and replied, "I can just sit. That's fine." "Haha, I didn't know this was." Hadawan winced in pain and cried out, "Oh my god." He thought to himself, Jian and that girl are off having fun together, huh? I wish I could have a youthful memory like that on this outing. MC speaks up. The music is starting. Hadawan realizes something. It seems like he's remembering that yesterday afternoon he had talked to Ju Erin. "Can you handle the music event tomorrow night? The speakers can be pretty intense." She had replied, in that case, I'll sneak out on my own." Then he asked her, what are you planning to do while you wait?" Ju Erin thought for a moment and then answered, "Well, we could take a walk around Chiamachon." Hadawan wondered to himself, it seems like Ju Erin is heading to Chiamachon alone now. After that, he snuck out to find her. Hadawan mumbled, "I think she's probably somewhere around here." He walked on and remarked, "The atmosphere feels a little strange with all these tombs around." Hadawan looked around, trying to spot Ju Erin's figure, and mumbled to himself, "It's not safe for Erin to be out here alone. I should call her." Suddenly, he stepped on a blue cord, and a system notification popped up announcing the dungeon event. "You've entered the king's tomb." Dawan was startled, sweating profusely, and muttered, "What? That scared me." He wondered to himself, is this the dungeon event? Hadawan muttered to himself with a bit of fear. In a sparsely populated area, there's only a tomb like this. The mission system, the king's mausoleum. It's about eliminating enemies. Hadawan, confused, wondered, where are the enemies? Suddenly, someone charged out, and he looked suspiciously in that direction. Wako Big Brother rushed at him and attacked. He was crazily trying to land another hit. You know how to leave your house? You didn't even need to be lured out, he sneered. Hadawan quickly reacted and blocked the strike. He couldn't help but mutter, "Oh!" Out of nowhere, Wako Little Brother appeared from behind and immediately attacked. "Oh, Hyoseov mocked, you bastard, do you ever learn about the land?" He laughed and added, "Because this is a perfect place to return to Mother Earth. Ha ha ha." Hadawan, now angry, gritted his teeth and asked, "Who the hell are you two to be hitting me like this?" One of them responded arrogantly, "You don't need to know." Oh, Taeseob said confidently, "I'll break your arm in no time." Oh, Hyoseob, with a twisted grin, added, "If you want, I'll only take one egg." Heh. Hadawan looked around. The two crazy brothers seemed a little confused by his reaction. Hadawan muttered, "Ha, thank God." Oh, Taeseob, looking confused, asked, "You feel lucky?" Hadawan thought to himself, suddenly a dungeon appears near the graves. I'm wondering if the zombies will leave it alone. Without any fear, he added, "In the end, there are only two of us." But he did realize that, Hyoseob had already appeared behind him. Hadawan saw him and threw a punch. He used his gap jab technique, knocking the crazy little brother far away. Hadawan, still puzzled, thought to himself before the dungeon appeared. Adding extra events seemed like a bonus reward, but what I'm really curious about is something else. It doesn't even matter who these thugs are now. Taeseob couldn't believe his eyes and said, "No way." Hadawan silently made up his mind. I need to claim my reward quickly. He said confidently to Taeseob, "There's one more right." Hadawan thought, "I still need to meet you, Eren." The brothers, Taeseob and Hyoseob, were known as the Mad Brothers. When they worked together, they'd break their target's arm, counting out loud from 1 to 3. 1. That was the nickname given to them by people who had witnessed their brutal acts. Hyoseob continued 2. Their victim screamed in pain as his arm was twisted behind him. His face twisted in agony, his eyes wide in horror. These two brothers had taken on violent crime missions for a private detective agency showing no emotion. When they reached 3, it was the end for their victim. 3. They don't care who the target is. A new mother, just after giving birth, had her arm broken by them and died while holding her baby. The baby cried as if it somehow sensed its mother's passing, because they are people who feel no remorse. During one mission, the terrified voices of a mother and child echoed, "Dad, husband." A tattooed man, furious, shouted, "Those bastards." He angrily demanded justice, yelling, "What the hell are you doing barging into someone else's house? Who the hell sent you here?" No matter how strong the enemy was, it didn't matter. The big guy rushed at the two brothers, furious beyond belief, shouting, "I'll kill you, you two bastards." As both brothers moved together in action, the two of them handled the situation. The brothers climbed the stairs. Hyoseob sighed, that basement smell. Taeseob asked his brother, "Where's the next target?" They wouldn't lose. Hyoseob was knocked down to the ground, and his system message appeared in front of Hadawan. The tomb of the king destroyed the enemy. He thought to himself, it doesn't matter if it's the tomb of the king or whatever. It's just a dungeon with a fancy name. Taeseob froze for a moment when he called his younger brother. Hadawan downplayed his opponent, saying, "It's not that big of a deal." Taeseob, with a serious expression and a glare full of intent, asked again, "Younger brother?" Hadawan mumbled to himself, "Now that I think about it, you two really do look alike." He then made a guess. "Are you guys twins?" Taeseob didn't say anything. Maybe his words hit too close to home. He gathered himself and charged toward the Wako Big Brother, coldly saying, "I don't know why you two are doing this." Hadawan swung his fist, landing a punch on the Wako Big Brother's face. "But right now, I need to meet someone," Taeseob said confidently, speaking to Taeseob. "You should go lay down next to your brother." The Wako Big Brother trembled, but still managed to block the punch, complimenting, "That lazy punch of yours isn't bad." Hadawan, uninterested, responded, "Is that so?" He was about to attack Taeseob again, saying, "I've got something even better." The move he used was called 1,000 punches. However, the Wako Little Brother appeared from behind and attacked him. He had been pretending all along. Hyoseob taunted, "Is your vision messed up or something?" He kept attacking, saying, "Where do we look alike?" Hadawan went from being the aggressor to the defender, using his hands to block Hyoseob's blows. Hyoseob shouted, "I'm way better looking than my brother, you dog." Hyoseob was planning to attack him again and sighed, "Honestly, I'm speechless." Ha ha. Hadawan, a bit confused, wondered to himself, has he already recovered? Hadawan decided to counterattack. Hyoseob was quick and agile, so he could easily dodge. Hadawan thought, all right, let's try again. Taeseob had suddenly attacked from the side, kicking Hadawan to the ground. He scolded Hyoseob, saying, "Bro, stop talking nonsense. Focus, don't get cocky, or you'll end up getting punched again. Hyoseob protested, what? I was working with you on the strategy earlier. He looked hurt and asked, didn't you see that I actually succeeded in landing a surprise attack? Oh, Hyoseob sighed, but that kick really hurt. I thought I was done for. Ha ha. Ha Dawan pushed himself up, still cautious, eyeing the two brothers. Oh, Hyoseob kneeled down, teasing Ha Dawan, but I'm fine. What's that dog gonna do now? Must be in a lot of pain, huh? Taeseo, a little angry, yelled at his younger brother, you're so loud. He ordered him, get up there now. Hyoseob complied, saying yes. The crazy little brother charged toward Dawan confidently, saying, this time, I'll attack head-on. Ha Dawan only needed one move to land a punch straight to Hyoseob's face. It was a gap jab, followed by a quick 3-hit combo. Then, out of nowhere, Taeseo hit him on the back of the head. He said, was that part of your strategy too? Ha Dawan gritted his teeth in pain and thought, again from behind. This crazy little brother's stepping in to land another blow. Taeseo sized up Ha Dawan's strength and muttered, this guy's not some weakling. Now pay up for messing up my handsome face. Damn it. Ha Dawan had no choice but to take the hits. He sighed inwardly, thinking, this is different. This fight is so much different from the brawls I've had with groups of people before. He remembered previous fights where he easily handled even a crowd. They were just a bunch of uncoordinated, chaotic fighters, nothing special. But these two brothers, they were on another level. They worked together seamlessly. One would attack from the front while the other came at him from behind, leaving Ha Dawan no chance to react. He realized they were used to fighting as a pair. Ha Dawan kicked out, ready to strike. He thought, this is my chance to hit the guy in front of me. But before he could land the blow, Hyoseob attacked him from behind. Hyoseob laughed mockingly and said, let's see how you handle this. Ha ha. The other brother, who wasn't even in Ha Dawan's line of sight, took advantage of the situation and attacked from behind. It was dirty, but effective. Ha Dawan stepped back, quietly thinking to himself, even though this is just a simple group, their speed is insane. It wasn't long before sweat soaked his whole body. He sighed, I can't even attack properly. Hyoseob laughed mockingly at Taeseo, saying, hey, big bro, you only survived because of me earlier, you know. The wacko big brother shot back. What are you talking about? It wasn't that serious. Taeseo, looking frustrated, spoke up. Ha Dawan, you're more disappointing than we thought. Hearing them, Ha Dawan sneered coldly. He thought to himself, but these guys are no different. Compared to that monster, Jang Suk-yeon, his face darkened with killing intent as he turned to glare at the two of them, condemning, from ganging up on me to attacking from behind. You've already played dirty and now you're complaining about disappointment? Ha Dawan quietly concluded each of them has only average abilities. He thought to himself, in the end, this match. Ha Dawan was about to charge at the two brothers again. He scolded them. Aren't you ashamed? He understood the rules of the game well. The side that lands a stronger attack first would win. Hey, those guys are charging at us too. Hyoseob said to his older brother. Haha, yeah, you're right, bro. Taeseo responded coldly, that's just the excuse of a loser. Ha Dawan decided to go after Hyoseob first. I'll start with this little punk, the one who's been getting on my nerves. The wacko little brother looked surprised. Ha Dawan secretly planned to attack the enemy in front of him. He used a gap jab, but the other opponent, someone who wasn't even on his radar, caught his attention. Hyoseob was surprised when Dawan didn't attack him, but instead turned his back to strike. The real target of Ha Dawan was Taeseo, and he planned to attack from behind. He threw a powerful punch, sending Taeseo crashing to the ground. Taeseo, completely unfazed, asked, you think we wouldn't have predicted you do that? Taeseo kicked at him. Ha Dawan quickly jumped up high. Taeseo then ordered Hyoseob, little brother, finish this. Ha Dawan thought to himself, but in the end, this fight. Ha Dawan prepared to attack Taeseo from above. He thought whichever side lands a stronger attack first will win. Hyoseob grabbed the hood of his head from behind and said, well, well. Ha Dawan was hit with a punch to the face. The wacko little brother spoke up, this shirt has places to grab. Ha Dawan tried to use his heel to block the force. Taeseo spoke, this is good enough, we need to start moving toward the next target. The wacko little brother added, now we just need to break both his arms. They each grabbed one of his arms and twisted it backward. Hyoseob confidently said, I told you earlier, you dog. You're going to experience some really intense pain. Ha ha. Then the wacko little brother started counting 1, 2. When he got to 3, Ha Dawan, smiling confidently, said, 3. Taeseo couldn't understand what his younger brother was doing. Ha Dawan, angry and biting his lip, growled, no matter what dirty tricks you pull, he said, grabbing the collar of both their shirts. He tightened his grip. I'll hit back harder. He snapped, his eyes filled with rage. It'll still be me, you damn dogs. The two brothers, without any warning, charged at each other. They collided hard, and both were sent sprawling backward. Ha Dawan checked his arm, no injury, but he was furious. He shouted at the two brothers, "Who gave you the right to break my arm?" He roared, sweat dripping from his face, then muttered, "Look at that! It almost broke for real. You two are insane, being twin lunatics." On the ground, writhing in pain, one of them brothers screamed, "Ah!" Big brother. Ha Dawan, a bit confused by what he said, replied, "Huh? You're the older brother? Are you out of your mind?" He was about to say more when he suddenly saw a light shining from above. This time, "I'll come from above." The headlights of a motorcycle shone down. Ha Dawan looked up from the hill, his mind racing. From the grave, he thought. He was puzzled and muttered, "A motorcycle?" Ha Dawan furrowed his brows, questioning himself. Where did that come from? Could it have been there already? Someone else cried out in pain, "Ah, how are you still so strong in that position?" Oh, Hyosito lay face down on the ground, clutching his head and sighed, "If I took that hit, my head would have been smashed like a watermelon. Damn, I'd probably be bleeding like crazy too." Ha Dawan confidently asked him, "Oh, you're getting up again?" He spoke up, declaring, "This time, I'm definitely going to crush you." Suddenly, a sound came from beside him. "Ah, sit up," he scolded the person. "I told you to come earlier. Why are you just getting here now?" As the two brothers fought together, Hyosi turned to the person next to him. "Ha ha, do you know how long I've been waiting? They won't lose." He remembered when Hyosi had asked Tazio, "Big brother, can't we just beat him up?" He licked his ice cream and said, "I want to take down that guy named Hey Dawan right now." Ha ha ha. Tazio responded to his younger brother, "It's not the right time yet. Just wait a little longer." While they both lay bored in the car, Tazio encouraged his brother, "Little brother, it won't be long now. Hang in there and wait." Hyosio, lazily stretched out on the bench, asked his older brother, "Big brother, I'm holding back, even without you saying anything. How much longer do we have to wait?" Wacko Big Brother kept tapping on his phone without saying anything. Someone with a devilish avatar was texting him. He sent a message, "I should arrive before nightfall." Tasing Up reassured his younger brother, "Tonight we'll get things done, and everyone is calling us." A voice rang out, "On your way here, those thugs will trick you." Another young man, looking like the brother, stepped forward. He said, "I have no choice but to teach them a lesson, so I'm running a little late. You wouldn't believe how much those two have struggled just to get this far, Wacko brother." Someone grabbed Ha Dawan's wrist and said, "From now on." Dawan thought to himself and them. The other person, grinning maliciously, was Guangxiu, the eldest Wacko brother. He said, "Let's switch to battle mode, shall we?" The three of them were known as the Wacko brothers. Inside the venue, loud music blared. Choi Mindy lay on the floor, propping her hips up, looking very sexy. Then she quickly jumped up, falling backward, as if trying to land on Yu Han. His face was a mix of embarrassment and fear. The young men in the crowd blushed and yelled out loudly. The girls posed seductively in front of their boyfriends. Jihan wondered, is it because he's dancing? He looked at the girl in front of him, sweat dripping down her face. Jihan silently thought, "It's so hot." Then, when Choi Mindy hugged him from behind, Jihan sighed so close. As her full chest brushed against his firm back, he thought, my heart feels like it's going to explode." Both of them turned red. Jihan was so nervous he started sweating bullets, while Choi Mindy avoided eye contact, not daring to look at him. Back at Ha Dawan's place, Guangxiu was talking to his two younger brothers. "On the way here, I had a run-in with a few thugs. Almost ended up in a fight," he said, grinning and showing his fangs. "Had no choice but to teach them a lesson, so I ended up a bit late. Didn't expect you two to be in such a mess." His tone was mocking as he teased his younger brothers. He grabbed Ha Dawan's hand and said, "So, from now on." Ha Dawan was a little taken aback by the guy's appearance. He wondered, am I seeing this right? Guangxiu suggested to his brothers, "How about we switch to team-up mode?" Ha Dawan thought to himself, this guy's the same too. Hyosio teased his older brother affectionately. "No matter how you look at it, you're just being lazy and showing up late." Guangxiu shot back, "Little brother, driving all the way from Seoul here is exhausting. I need to rest for a bit too." Ha Dawan thought to himself, he's the same way. Tazio, holding his bleeding wound, spoke up, "If you're the older brother, then act like it. Is that the only reason you're late?" Guangxiu, looking innocent, asked, "Are you looking down on me like a middle schooler? That's sad, really sad." Ha Dawan saw the three of them so alike, as if they were all cut from the same mold, just like that guy too. Hyosio sat up and scolded, "Hey, that's a bit harsh, bro." Tazio struggled to take a step and replied to his younger brother, "I didn't mean it like that." Ha Dawan was still puzzled, wondering why they all looked so similar. Curiously, Ha Dawan asked, Guangxiu, "Are you guys going to keep multiplying?" Oh, Wang Xiao looked confused and asked what. He was still trying to explain we're triplets when Had Dawen punched him in the face. He thought to himself, all right, never mind, that's not important. I'm just used to fighting with two people at once. Oh, Wang Xiao clutched his face, screaming in pain. Oh, Hyoseo, worried, called out to him, big brother. Had Dawen thought to himself, now there were three of them. Oh, Wang Xiao seemed unaffected, sticking out his tongue to lick the blood from the side of his mouth and sighed. Well, if I hadn't dodged that, I'd probably lose all my front teeth. He sized up, Had Dawen, and said, you're the type to lose your temper easily, huh? Oh, Wang Xiao prepared to charge and attack him. He said, with that attitude, you won't last long. He then ordered the other two, let's get started, guys. When Oh Wang Xiao attacked, Had Dawen was already quick enough to duck and avoid the strike. Had Dawen had expected this and thought, attacking from behind, huh? Then, Had Dawen took off running. Oh Wang Xiao couldn't believe his eyes, thinking what? Oh Hyoseo offered his guess. He's running away. Oh Hyoseo praised him. That kid's got good instincts. Oh Wang Xiao came up with a plan and suggested to Oh Hyoseo, little brother, you go around to the left of the tomb. I'll go the opposite way. The wacko little brother immediately agreed and quickly responded, got it. Wacko big brother, chasing after Dawen, muttered to himself, I don't know if you only have one person with you or what, but he confidently added, you won't escape from the three of us. Had Dawen suddenly appeared from the side and asked, what did you just say? Talking to yourself? He quickly attacked Tazia and asked, do you feel lonely when you're away from your brothers for a while? Wacko big brother thought to himself, he's not running away. Had Dawen kept attacking him. Oh, Tazia wondered, is this his plan to divide us? He thought, it's useless. Oh, Hyoseo appeared from behind, ready to attack Dawen. However, Had Dawen sensed his presence and kicked his leg back, using the gap jab skill. Oh, Hyoseo was hit, causing him to spit out more blood, his face dazed. Had Dawen coldly said to him, I'm used to being attacked from behind. Oh, Wang Xiao looked surprised and asked, really? He stood on the hill, asking Dawen, what about an attack from above? Oh, Wang Xiao kicked sideways and Had Dawen was sent flying. He barely managed to lower his center of gravity to stay balanced, swearing angrily, shit. He wondered, did he pass through the tomb? Oh, Hyoseo held his face and asked his two older brothers, I bit my tongue. With all this blood, I'm not going to die, am I? Oh, Tazia scolded his younger brother, quit making a fuss, I'm just as hurt as you are. Oh, Wang Xiao, his legs slightly shaking, spoke up, nice job, facing off against both of us. You got ambushed for such a short time and still managed to fight back. In his mind, oh, Wang Xiao thought, so it's true, defeating Zhang Siqiao. Looks like that wasn't just a rumor. Tazia reminded his older brother, I forgot to tell you, be careful, don't let this kid catch you. The eldest brother, with his hands in his pockets, walked away, responding coldly, I know, I saw you two crash into each other. Oh, Hyoseo stubbornly argued, what? I was just watching. Oh, Wang Xiao, in a cold tone, warned, you two better not die like this. He and his younger brothers charged forward together. Oh, Wang Xiao, sounding grateful, said, thanks for showing me how to handle this guy. Let's just fight the way we always do. Had Dawen couldn't believe his eyes and thought, what? This newcomer isn't much stronger than the last two. Oh, Hyoseo attacked him from behind. He cursed, damn. Had Dawen thought to himself that the other two were also badly injured. He used one hand to grab their arms. The two brothers trembled as he squeezed. Had Dawen, still a little confused, murmured, but why are they getting faster and faster? Oh, Taseab is attacking you head on, Had Dawen muttered, and getting a little stronger with every move. He was overwhelmed, having been constantly attacked by those three brothers, his head spinning. Had Dawen wondered, what kind of trick are they using? It was as if, oh, Wang Xiao could read his thoughts. He spoke up to explain, I know you're probably thinking about this, so I'll tell you. It's not that we're stronger. He laughed loudly and continued, it's because you're getting weaker. On the hill, three white wolves appeared. They were the ice wolves. Together, they cornered a fierce tiger. A story has been passed down through the ages about this. A story that goes like this. The three ice wolves surrounded a tiger. They kept attacking and then pulling back, taking turns over and over again and again and again. Little by little, the tiger was covered in wounds. In the end, the tiger was exhausted and became the wolves' prey. Dawen was like that tiger. He had been relentlessly attacked by the three brothers and had finally reached his limit. He was drained with no strength left. Oh, Wang Sub said with confidence, this is just how it is. He went on, to defend against a group attack, you have to use up way more energy than we do. He continued explaining individually, none of us is anything special compared to you, but when we work together, we can take down even a tiger. This is how we fight as a team. He sarcastically spoke up, you're going to lose because you're all alone. Dawen was drenched in sweat. He struggled to speak. That line is ridiculous. I can't believe a villain would say something like that. Oh, Hyoseob didn't believe what he had just heard and angrily asked, Dan, why are we the villains? Oh, Hyoseob then tried to reason with his older brother, hey, we should move on to the next target before it's too late. Oh, Wang Seob responded, yeah, you're right. I'll wrap this up quickly so you can get some rest. Hadaoin forced himself to stand up and shouted at Oh Wang Seob, hey you. He then asked him, you really think I'm all alone? Oh Wang Seob looked confused and muttered, huh? He glanced around and added, isn't it just you here? That's when Jian appeared to save Hadaoin. He used a leg sweep technique and Wang Seob was easily knocked off balance and fell, face first onto the ground. It was a Jogo technique. Oh, Wang Seob slammed his face into the dirt. Oh, Hyoseob was momentarily stunned and said, what? That happened so suddenly. Yu Jian asked with some worry about Hadaoin's situation. How's it going? I think I hit them too hard. Is everything okay, Daoin? Those guys are thugs, right? He reached out and helped his best friend up, citing, I'm so glad I met you, Jihan. Oh, Hyoseob looked at Jian with a familiar expression and asked his brother, bro, is that the jerk? Oh, Taeseob confirmed, yeah, that's our next target. He continued, I'm not sure how to deal with him though. What should we do? As the three brothers were about to rush at Hadaoin, he quickly made a run for it. Let's get started, guides, he shouted. Oh, Wang Seob couldn't believe his eyes, thinking, what the heck? Oh, Taeseob sighed, he's running away, and the youngest is just laughing and mocking me. He's got good instincts. Hadaoin quickly dialed Jihan. He anxiously muttered to himself, oh man, hurry up, hurry up. He thought to himself, I have a bad feeling about this. If I try to take them on alone, I'm definitely going to end up in the hospital for a while. He sent his location to Jian, along with a message, I'm about to die. He silently called out to his best friend, please hurry, Jihan. Hadaoin, feeling a bit guilty, said, sorry for dragging you into this. Yu Jian didn't take it personally and a little confused. Asked him, it's fine. Why are you fighting here? Even Daoin wasn't sure himself. He tried to change the subject, saying, I'll explain the details later. I'm not even sure myself. Jian glanced at the group and asked Daoin, so, you're only dealing with these guys? Hadaoin admitted, yeah. Without saying anything else, the two of them rushed in together. Hadaoin said they're all thugs, so don't feel bad. Just give them a good beating. Yu Jian, completely unfazed, responded, oh, guide. Oh, Taeseob started giving instructions to his younger brother, saying, little bro, take care of Jian. Oh, Hyoseob complained that Punk had the nerve to attack from behind. He quickly charged forward, shouting, take this, you coward. But Yu Jian swiftly dodged the attack. Yu Jian said, sorry, then added, this might hurt a little. With just one punch, he sent Hyoseob flying, using a move called one-inch fist, a technique meant to incapacitate with a single strike. Hyoseob was punched so hard that his face was completely deformed. Yu Jian sighed, was that a bit too much? It looks like he's really hurt. Meanwhile, Taeseob was fighting Hadaoin. He coldly asked him, are you okay fighting alone? Taeseob, with an indifferent look on his face, responded, your form isn't that great either. Are you really in any position to worry about me? Hadaoin quickly clarified, no, not you. He then said, your buddies have already been taken care of, so now it's just you left. Hadaoin prepared to use his special skill. He attacked relentlessly. Your older brother, just him. He used his 8,000 punches move. The continuous blows hit Taeseob, who took them all until a final strike under his chin. The pain was so intense that he cried out in agony. Taeseob's face was left badly disfigured from the attack. Hadaoin looked concerned and thought to himself, was that too much? After the fight, he sighed, that felt good. Wang Seob slowly sat up, rubbing his head and muttering, Suddenly, someone spoke. Hadaoin coldly ordered Wang Seob, hey you, answer my question first. He asked, what did you just say about some kind of goal? Hadaoin was determined to get to the bottom of it. Who sent you guys here? Wang Seob stood there, still looking completely clueless. Someone stepped forward, pointing at the motorcycle parked on the hill, and said, over there, our guys have run into this jerk. A fat guy, waddling over, nodded in agreement. Yeah, that bike matches the two pictures they sent me. That crazy idiot left it right there. The skinny guy beside him muttered, clearly annoying, to stir up trouble in someone else's turf and park the bike like that. He must be trying to get our attention. Then someone else threw out a theory. He probably has more guys lying in wait around here. A young guy with blonde hair, seeing no problem at all, spoke up. Who cares? Honestly, it's been so boring lately without any fights. A group of young guys all started walking and someone greeted them warmly. The gang of thugs, led by the blonde guy, was all smiles. He laughed and said, our foreign guest, I see. The system announced, monster approaching. First high school. On the ground, Hyoseob and Taeseob were lying on the dirt. Oh, Wang Xiao stood frozen, staring at his two younger brothers, his mouth trembling as he called out their names one by one. He said, "You guys, when did this happen?" At that moment, a voice spoke up. I'm so tired. I feel like I'm about to die. Now all you need to do is answer the question and it'll be over. I've heard that you guys came all the way here to hurt us. First me, then Jian. Is that true? Hadawan said, looking at Wang Xiao, analyzing him. You guys don't know anything, so there's no reason for you to be doing this, Hadawan said as he stepped closer to Wang Xiao, asking him seriously, who sent you here? Inside a restaurant in the city, voices of conversation echoed back and forth. But don't worry, customers, just trust us and leave it to us. Two men were sitting at a table discussing things. The man sitting across from the other suddenly asked, wait, what if the people we send get caught? What if they confess that I was the one who ordered them? What should we do then? Jino, his face emotionless, answered without hesitation, those people are specialists in large-scale operations. I don't think a situation like that will happen. If something like that happens, they absolutely won't say a word, he said. He disagreed. It's easy to say, but when you've been hit enough, your mouth just opens on its own. Jino seemed to lose his patience. He stood up, leaned on the table, and tilted toward him. Jino said, those people already knew. In other words, if you break the organization's trust and commit a crime, you'll really end up dead. Quan Seon looked tense, sweat streaming down his face. Jino continued, our boss is really someone to be afraid of. After saying that, he let out a loud laugh. But inside, Jino thought, actually, when this information gets out, we'll be the ones who are in more trouble. Back with Hadawan, Wang Xiao answered the earlier questions from Hadawan. I don't know what you're talking about. He said that, but deep down he thought, I'm not going to tell this guy the truth. Wang Xiao went on, we just got involved because it seemed fun. Behind Wang Xiao, a knife was hidden and his hand was already gripping the handle, ready to act, as he had no intention of backing down from the assignment. Wang Xiao was calculating. He knew that with just 2 quick knife strikes to the legs, he could take this guy out. Meanwhile, he kept trying to lure Hadawan closer, saying, I told you, if you're going to make excuses, at least show some real sincerity. Looking at the 2 young men in front of him, Wang Xiao thought about the situation. The problem was the guy who had suddenly appeared. He had to attack at a moment when the man couldn't fight back and handle both of them at the same time. At that moment, Dawan suddenly lost his balance. He couldn't stand properly and felt like he was about to fall. Shihan quickly reached out to steady him, his voice full of concern as he asked, Are you okay? Are you badly hurt? Dawan responded casually, Oh no, I'm fine. It's not that bad. Dawan took a moment to check his body. He thought to himself, What's going on? My HP is still up. His HP bar showed 6420 out of 11,500. Dawan thought, I shouldn't be this wobbly, but why do I feel so drained? He was out of breath, sweat pouring down his face and neck. He wondered if there was a specific stamina concept like in video games. Dawan braced himself with his hands, trying to think through what had just happened. He realized that in a game, running wouldn't usually drain a character's energy, and facing off against 3 guys on his own shouldn't have been too much of a stretch. Dawan kept talking, but Jian didn't understand anything. He turned to Dawan and said, Are you okay? Why are you saying all these weird things all of a sudden? Jian's words startled Dawan. The 2 of them hadn't noticed that Wang Xiao was already planning to take action against them. He saw this moment as the perfect opportunity. Oh, Wang Xiao pulled out a knife, ready to end things right then and there. But just as Wang Xiao was about to strike, a voice called out, Is that the guy? I think so. From the sound of the voice and the description of a green rider jacket, Wang Xiao realized he couldn't go through with his plan. In fact, the person being talked about seemed to be him. The voices grew louder as a group of people approached, and they began talking to each other. But why are they doing this to each other? Is it internal conflict? Dawan looked at the approaching group, still confused but feeling a bit anxious. What's going on with them now? Jian was just as confused. But then Dawan had a thought. Could it be that the Silla High School monster squad was coming in? As the large group of people got closer, Dawan thought to himself, Are all those guys monsters from this tomb? I thought the 3 brothers were the last ones. Jian immediately sensed something was off about the atmosphere. Dawan felt that with so many people around, they couldn't afford to be careless and needed to be extra cautious. One of the members of the monster army boldly said, I heard there was a conflict between the newcomers and that guy in the green shirt, so I came here to check it out. But this whole situation seems kind of unclear. Aren't you all on the same side? Why are you fighting each other? Shian quickly replied, Why would I be on the same side as someone like him? The monster army representative sighed and said, That's not the issue. The real problem is that you're invading someone else's territory. Jian, feeling a bit anxious, responded, No, we were just here for a field trip. It really has nothing to do with that. The monster army didn't waste time beating around the bush and said directly, "The whole thing about territory or newcomers is just an excuse. The real reason is that this place has been so peaceful for so long, it's getting boring. I'm so tired of this peace." He stepped on the head of one of Wang Xiao's fallen teammates, mocking, "You've already fallen before the fight even started." With that, the monster army members split up to taunt the two people who were unable to fight, lying helplessly on the ground. They looked at Guang Xiab and teased, "You're just like that guy in the green shirt, huh? Probably made in the same factory." They all laughed loudly. Guang Xiab couldn't stand seeing his younger brothers being treated like this. He charged forward and shouted, "Take your hands off him, you bastard." The guy was lucky enough to react quickly and dodge the attack. Guang Xiab pointed a knife at the soldiers, trying to stay calm as he threatened, "If you come any closer, I'll stab you. You don't want to end up disabled." But before Guang Xiab could finish, someone from the soldiers appeared behind him. The guy grabbed both of Guang Xiab's arms, catching him by surprise. By the time Guang Xiab tried to react, he couldn't move. The leader of the soldiers walked up to him and said, "Looks like you and your brothers are pretty close, huh? I thought brothers weren't supposed to be that close." Guang Xiab shot back, "What's it to you?" But before he could say anything more, the leader slapped him across the face. As he did, he sneered, "Yeah, it's got nothing to do with me. No matter what happens, I don't care. We're just here to have some fun with you guys until the end of the night." With every word, the leader spoke. Wang Xiao got slapped again. His own men had started messing with Wang Xiao's younger brothers, teasing them. Qian watched the scene unfold, feeling sorry for them. He said, "This seems pretty serious." Do Wan patted him on the shoulder and said, "It's his own fault. Don't worry about it. Besides, right now, maybe we should focus more on our own situation." The rest of the group surrounded Do Wan and Jian. Do Wan wasn't too surprised because he knew that once they entered the tomb, fighting with them was inevitable. The fat guy in the group grinned smugly and said to Do Wan and Jian, "Why worry about that useless stuff? Either way, you two can't escape." One of his buddies standing next to him suddenly remembered something. He said, "Now that I look closely, that guy in the black hoodie, wasn't he the one who rode in the car with that girl yesterday?" The fat guy replied, "Yeah, I think it's him. How about we use his phone to call her out? We can all go out, drink, and party all night." His buddy laughed along, and the whole group burst into creepy, twisted laughter. Do Wan assessed the situation and thought to himself, "Right now, I can't fight them normally. Even with Jian here, there's no guarantee we can take them all down." Meanwhile, on the other side, the group had grown tired of messing with Guang Xiao. He was lying defeated at the feet of the monster squad. The man wearing glasses, hands in his pockets, glanced at Do Wan and said, "They don't seem like they want to fight." The leader of the monster squad, lighting a cigarette, replied, "When you think about it, we have more people than they do. If we win like this, it won't be any fun." Do Wan had been calculating from the start. The leader of the group shouted over to him and Jian, making an offer. "Hey, you two fight each other. Whoever wins, I'll let them go." Jian was stunned when he heard the condition. He couldn't possibly do this, but before he could process it, Do Wan attacked him. In his mind, he realized that there was no other choice. This was the only way left. The monster army watched this turn of events and laughed among themselves, saying, "Those two really have no loyalty. They turn on each other so quickly." Jian raised his arms to block Do Wan's attacks. But then something clicked in his mind. He thought, "Wait, he's not actually hitting me. Why is Do Wan pushing me away instead?" In that moment, Do Wan took the opportunity to say a few words to Jian. "I'm sorry for acting on my own." Jian still couldn't understand what was happening. Do Wan continued, "Run as far as you can from here." Then Do Wan shoved Jian away with force. Meanwhile, the man in glasses, observing the situation, turned to the leader beside him and said, "Is he pretending to fight to break through the encirclement?" The leader was also surprised. Jian, now pushed far away, was filled with concern for Do Wan. He shouted back to him, "What are you talking about? How can I leave you behind?" But Do Wan replied, "It's fine. From now on, I can fight alone." Do Wan reached into his pocket, searching for something. As he did, he said, "I have no idea what this is going to lead to now." In his hand, he held the reward from his previous mission. As he looked at it, Do Wan thought to himself, "I can only use this, I guess." The system notification appeared, "Mission reward, hidden item received." After reading it, Do Wan was a little confused. He looked at the item in his hand and wondered, isn't this just a lock? He remembered when he first got this item. He had just come back from school and was sitting in the park, holding the lock in his hand, thinking, why would I get a lock after receiving a key? First, he decided to check the item's details. The system displayed the information, black lock, hidden item, seals the character's free will. System will automatically activate combat mode, lasts for 10 minutes. Do Wan was puzzled. Automatic combat mode, is that even possible in real life? If it's real, that's basically a scam. Looking at the item in his hand, Do Wan felt a little tense and uneasy. He said, "Isn't this kind of dangerous? What if there's someone nearby who's not an enemy? What would happen then? I have a bad feeling about this. I'll only use it if I'm really in a life-threatening situation." Back to reality, Do Wan took out the lock. The group of Monster Army members looked at the lock, puzzled. Is that a lock? Why is he suddenly pulling it out? The fat guy jokingly responded, "He probably just cleaned out a locker or something. Hey, that brown-haired guy isn't running back here fast enough. Should I go beat him up and drag him back?" Just as the fat guy started to head toward Jian, Do Wan stopped him. Do Wan grabbed his arm and said, "Where are you going? Didn't you say you wanted to play all night? Let's start the hellish party now." Do Wan snapped the lock shut, letting everything fall into place. As the lock activated, dark purple and black lights mixed and spread throughout the space. Do Wan's body began to change and his pupils turned purple. A strong wind picked up around him, pulling everything in its path, and Do Wan collapsed. The fat guy was confused about what Do Wan was doing. He watched him with interest and asked, "What are you doing now? Getting goosebumps or something?" Still dealing with the effects of his second-year middle school illness, everything around Do Wan began to blur. A loud scream echoed, and the leader of the group watched Do Wan intently, but still couldn't figure out what was happening. All that could be heard of this space now was the fat guy's desperate screams, while the whole monster army stood frozen, clueless, and bewildered, unsure of what was going on. Do Wan's hand tightened around his opponent's shoulder, not letting go. The system then notified. Black lock activated. Automatic combat begins. The fat man was forced to kneel, collapsing to the ground. Do Wan now exuded an aura of mystery and power. Automatic combat is a skill where the player doesn't directly control the character. Instead, the system recognizes the monster and automatically engages in battle. It's a convenient skill for players who don't have much time to play, but it usually reduces the character's abilities compared to direct control. However, when used with a highly advanced AI system, automatic combat can lead to a massacre. The group of monster soldiers stood frozen, completely confused about what had just happened. They exchanged puzzled looks. What just happened? What was that? The arrogant fat man who was standing tall just moments ago now lay motionless on the ground. The others started to feel a sense of fear, but one of them still shouted, "That bastard dared to touch my friend." In the next instant, Do Wan struck. With one hand, he punched upward into the man's chest, sending blood splattering everywhere. But Do Wan wasn't done. He pressed the attack. One of the monster soldiers couldn't help but exclaim, "Damn, how could he be so fast?" Before he could finish his sentence, Do Wan was already on him. He was immediately struck, his face beaten by Do Wan until it was unrecognizable. At that moment, Do Wan radiated a deadly, iron-like aura. Do Wan turned his head to look behind him. The people in the army watched him closely and whispered to each other, "That bastard looks different from earlier, doesn't he?" His eyes felt like there was no soul behind them. One of them tried to stay calm and responded, "What nonsense are you talking about?" After saying that, the three of them charged toward Do Wan. Do Wan stood still, and the three of them spread out, attacking him from different angles. Do Wan hardly moved. He just stood there and casually waved his hand. In an instant, the three of them were knocked down, one by one. Within just a few seconds, Do Wan suddenly felt something was off. One of the three grabbed his ankle and yanked it, catching him off guard and making him lose his balance. The guy smirked and said to Do Wan, "Didn't see that coming, huh?" Seizing the opportunity, he yelled to his teammates, "Get him! Hit him hard, break him apart!" But before he could feel too pleased with himself, Do Wan's foot slammed his head into the ground. Jian stood outside watching Do Wan. He was completely stunned by how Do Wan kept surprising him. Jian thought about the words Do Wan had said when he pushed him away earlier. Jian quietly thought to himself what Do Wan said earlier. I'm not sure what he meant by that. But for now, if leaving this place would help him, then that's what I'll do, Jian thought as he quickly turned around and ran off. Meanwhile, the leader of the group and his two companions watched closely. The man wearing glasses spoke up. That guy's not someone to underestimate. The blonde-haired guy knew that, but he didn't take Do Wan too seriously, so he casually replied, "Still, you think we can't get past these guys?" The fat man frowned, clearly showing his impatience. The lock still hadn't fully done its job, and Do Wan remained unconscious. The monster squad, on the other hand, was now visibly shaken. They no longer had the confidence to attack him like before and whisper among themselves, "A monster? Damn, what's wrong with his face?" Some of them, scared, started to fall back, but the fat man at the rear shouted at them, "Anyone who falls back now is dead. Shut up and charge, you idiots." At this command, the squad moved forward, still scared but trying to reassure themselves, "I can do this." Yeah, we outnumber them. Do Wan took a step back, then quickly lunged forward, breezing past the squad. In just one swift motion, he attacked them, one by one as he went through. The people behind him used all their strength to throw punches at Do Wan. Of course, it couldn't stop him, and one by one, he took them down. There were cries begging Do Wan not to move forward, but like his companions, they couldn't escape either. Suddenly, Do Wan was stopped in his tracks. The fat man had grabbed him from behind. While holding him tight, he angrily yelled at his teammates, "Hold him tighter. How can you guys be so useless? Can't even do this much?" After shouting, he squeezed Do Wan even harder and said to him, "You've already tried to hold on to your meal, but I'm going to keep holding you until your ribs crack." The man with glasses, seeing that Do Wan was being pinned, spoke with more confidence. "Those who act like they're so tough can't do anything when a pig like that gets a hold of them. There's no way he's getting out of this." But before he could finish speaking, what happened next left him in shock. He cursed under his breath. Damn it. The fat man was still holding Do Wan tightly, but Do Wan wasn't just standing still. He grabbed the man's thigh and squeezed it with all of his strength, causing the fat man to cry out in pain. Finally, the fat man couldn't stand the pain any longer and had to release Do Wan. Once Do Wan was free, he immediately gathered momentum, leaped high into the air, and then spun around, kicking the fat man's face with full force. The fat man had no chance to fight back and collapsed to the ground in pain. After taking care of the fat man, Do Wan landed smoothly. He sat in the middle of a pile of people he had just knocked down, all sprawled out on the ground. At that moment, the man with glasses seemed ready to join the fight. He stood behind Do Wan, hands in his pockets, casually speaking to him. Using glasses while fighting comes with risks. He took one hand out of his pocket, adjusted his glasses, and continued. "That's because if I get hit in the face, the chances of a serious injury are really high. So, most people would choose to take off their glasses even if it means losing some of their vision. But I'll never take them off. Do you know why? Because from the start, there's no way I'm going to get hit. I'll say it again. Anyone standing in front of me." Before the man with glasses could finish his sentence, a punch landed straight in his face. Do Wan only needed one blow to take him down. Then Do Wan moved toward the leader. The leader of the monster squad was clearly surprised. In such a short amount of time, Do Wan had defeated so many people. He couldn't help but exclaim, "What? This? Can you really take on more than 20 people in such a short time?" Even the last two people were the main forces of the group. So why? Why aren't you tired at all? After the leader said this, he charged at Do Wan. With a direct strike to his face, he asked, "Who the hell are you?" But before his hand could even touch Do Wan grabbed it. His other hand was already on the leader's neck. The leader couldn't do anything, only making choking noises as Do Wan squeezed. Suddenly, Do Wan felt something shift. His eyes widened, and on the ground, he saw the reflections of himself and the leader. After a moment, the scene of a room appeared. Do Wan's eyes went wide again, and he asked, "What's happening? Where is this?" Do Wan sat on the bed, looking around in confusion. He was baffled. He had clearly just used the black lock, so why was he in this shabby room? It seemed like someone lived here. Everything about this place felt too dangerous. Do Wan reacted quickly, deciding the first thing he should do was leave. Just then, the computer screen on the desk lit up. Do Wan was shocked. Why did the computer turn on by itself? Do Wan saw something on the computer screen. A line of text appeared. "Manager, it's been a while, hasn't it?" The manager walked into the room. "Manager, it's been a while, my friend. This place is where your mind can drift away from your body." Do Wan felt the tone was familiar, almost like he was thinking of someone. On the screen, an apocalyptic warrior level 200 appeared. The apocalyptic warrior asked, "Have you saved your friend yet?" In front of the apocalyptic warrior stood a pure black chocopi. The apocalyptic warrior spoke to the pure black chocopi, saying, "You're not bad either. I'll allow you to accompany me." Hearing this, the pure black chocopi immediately knelt down. A system message appeared on the screen. It was from the manager. "Don't panic, my friend. This is a gift for your kindness." Do Wan remembered something from the past and finally realized whose voice was on the computer screen. Do Wan exclaimed, "Apocalyptic warrior, so it's you." Ju Eren stood, gazing off into the distance as if lost in thought. Ju Eren said, "I bet everyone's busy watching the performance, right? I really wanted to see Minnie dance too. What a shame." She walked casually, her tone full of regret. Her steps turned in a different direction and she sighed again. But still, it's nice to be able to just look at the sky like this. Minnie looked up at the starry night sky. She stared for a moment, then realized she had wandered too far and decided to turn back. But suddenly, a phone rang. Behind her stood a mysterious man. The sound was coming from him, and the phone just wouldn't stop ringing. Ju Eren couldn't understand what was going on. The man picked up the phone, casually saying, "I forgot to mute it." Ju Eren's face showed clear concern as she asked, "Who are you?" Turning to Do Wan, he heard the voice coming from the computer. He said this familiar way of speaking, "Are you the one who brought about the end?" Just as Do Wan finished speaking, he moved to press send on the keyboard, but it didn't seem to work. Suddenly, a sound came from the screen and a notification popped up, "Speak freely." This surprised Do Wan. He exclaimed, "Can we actually talk now?" You never used to pretend to listen to me. The screen displayed a response. I'm not something that can always follow you. And now, I have one question. Dowan replied, what do you want to ask? But after that, it's my turn. The computer screen responded, Dowan, how does the power I gave you changed your life? When Dowan heard the question, he had to pause and think, what should I do? Of course, it's... Dowan hesitated for a moment, then suddenly exploded. He lost control and shouted, I've changed so much, it's terrible. Because of that damn mission, I've been stuck in this endless fight all day with monsters crawling out of the dungeon nonstop. Damn it. At this rate, my body won't last. All I know is playing games. How did things end up like this? But even so, it felt kind of refreshing. Dowan sat down in the chair, remembering the stories from earlier, and said, every day is the same. I'm always targeted by bullies doing everything they tell me and getting beaten up. When did I start standing up to them? It felt like it was just meant to happen. And now I can actually protect someone. More than that, if I didn't have this power, I probably would have died in front of the computer that day. So I'm really grateful to you. After saying this, Dowan felt a little embarrassed. He scratched his face and looked away. The computer screen stayed silent, not responding. After a while, a notification appeared. This time, it was the other person's turn to ask. Dowan read the text, his eyes widened in shock. Outside, the dark night sky enveloped everything. On the ground, the members of the monster army lay scattered, each one badly injured. Someone looked at the scene in confusion and asked, what is this? What's going on? What is this? The gaze moved from one monster soldier to the next, and it landed on Oh Guangxia. He had been beaten badly, but he hadn't died. Now awake, he surveyed his surroundings in confusion. Looking at the scene in front of him, he muttered to himself, what am I even seeing right now? In front of Oh Guangxia, Dowan was facing off against the leader of the monster army. The leader stared into Dowan's eyes and shouted, wait a minute, there are two shadows on the ground. Moments later, the leader clutched his arm in pain, cursing nonstop, while Dowan's face remained completely emotionless. The leader, still in disbelief, charged at Dowan again. But like before he could do anything, Dowan's foot slammed into his face, sending him flying across the ground. Oh Guangxia watched, feeling that Dowan was completely different from before. He wondered to himself, what's with all these monsters? Didn't he use all this strength when he fought me? I need to get the others out of here now. Oh Guangxia struggled to get up, but his whole body was in pain. He gritted his teeth and muttered, feeling the power of those bastards who had stomped on him again and again. Meanwhile, Dowan's leader was struggling against Dowan's strength. After a long fight, he collapsed on the ground, slowly scooting backward in fear. The leader pulled out his phone and said to Dowan, wait a second, if you think this is all there is, you're wrong. Eventually, you'll have to face the regional commander. It's inevitable. The leader raised the phone and made a call, nervously waiting for the other person to pick up. After a moment, someone finally answered. The leader sighed with relief and said, hey, Guak Paljin, where are you? All our guys have been defeated by some guy from another area. You need to come here. But before he could say anything else, the other person hung up without a word. The leader's fear grew, sweat pouring down his face. Furious, he yelled, hello? Paljin, you bastard. Dowan didn't let him go on any longer. Without hesitation, he kicked the leader, knocking him out. Oh, Guangxia frowned and thought to himself, did that guy just say Paljin? Could it be the Paljin I know? I remember it because the name is so unique, right? But it's not just the name. He remembered 2 years ago at the juvenile detention center. The cheers were loud. Ah, that's amazing. That's amazing. In the classroom, third-year Wako big brother Oh Guangxia asked, what's going on? The third-year Wako little brother shared the story. One of the new guys who just came in today is about to get beaten to death, I think. Let me explain. The guy's face wasn't great, so he tried to do something to one of the girls. But after everything fell apart, he got caught. Oh Guangxia didn't understand and asked again, fell apart. How is that something to be impressed by? The ninth grade Wako little brother answered, it wasn't just any girl the guy tried to mess with. It was the little sister of the leader from the next room over. That's when Oh Guangxia realized the guy must be something else. The ninth grade Wako little brother continued, the leader in that room has completely lost it. I heard as soon as he stepped into the living area, he killed the guy. The group of prisoners lined up in the hallway. Oh Guangxia casually said to the ninth grade Wako little brother next to him, the guys in the weight room are no joke. If that guy's a middle schooler, he's definitely dead. The ninth grade Wako little brother laughed and replied, yeah, the coffin lid's probably already closed. At that moment, the officer leading the group saw something and his face changed. He exclaimed, what is that? The next day, the officer picked up the radio and called for support. The younger brother leaned forward, looking like he could make out something, his face lighting up with excitement as he updated everyone on the situation. Oh, looks like there's trouble. It's that poor middle school kid. Outside, the officer urgently shouted, hey, you. Meanwhile, Guang Xiaob had the chance to observe more closely from inside. On the outside, the officer was struggling to open the door, but couldn't. Inside the holding cell, the prisoners were scattered across the floor, all covered in blood. The room only had one person standing. He stood in front of a chubby prisoner and asked, "Oh, so you're Jian's boss, huh?" The chubby prisoner could only moan faintly, unable to form words. The man continued, "How strange, meeting you here like this." He sat down, facing the chubby prisoner, and sighed. "But we can't keep being so close, can we? Actually, Jian likes you too. What a shame, really. If the cops had been just a little later, I think I could have done it." The man went on, speaking to himself. "When's your brother or your sister coming to visit? Next time, I'll be confident enough to finish the job." At this point, his face twisted into a crazed expression. On Ju Erin's side, she was facing a strange man. He was on the phone. Ju Erin nervously looked at the person in front of her and said, "I'm not mistaken, right? It's you, isn't it?" The whole day today. She remembered what happened in the morning. She had been out shopping with Choi Minnie and had felt something was off. Choi Minnie noticed Ju Erin staring off into the distance and sensed something was wrong, so she asked, "What's up? You've been acting weird. Is something going on?" Ju Erin didn't know how to explain it. She hesitated before saying, "No, it feels like someone's been staring at me." Choi Minnie tried to explain, "Erin, maybe just one or two guys have been looking at you." But behind the wall, there really was someone watching. Back to the present moment, Ju Erin realized the man in front of her was the one who had been following her all day. His name was Paljin. She could still hear the voice of the leader of the monster squad coming from his phone. Paljin looked at Ju Erin and awkwardly explained, "Following you? That's not it. From the moment I first met you, I just couldn't forget you." His naturally black hair and pale skin, from his eyelashes to his toes, everything about her was exactly his type. Paljin looked Ju Erin up and down, then expressed his feelings. His whole face twisted with madness as he said, "No matter what, I think I like you." As he spoke, Paljin took a step closer to Ju Erin. Terrified, she stepped back and warned him not to come any closer, threatening to scream if he did. Paljin wasn't afraid. Instead, he responded, "Scream. Even if you scream here, no one will hear you." Then Paljin started using words that were meant to sound polite, but were anything but look at you, dressed like that, coming here all alone. Aren't you hoping for something too? Ju Erin was trembling in fear, repeatedly telling Paljin to stay away. But Paljin kept going. "If you hadn't shown up, I was planning to visit your dorm at night." Shaking, Ju Erin grabbed her phone, dialed a number, and said, "I'm calling the police." But before she could do anything, Paljin aggressively knocked the phone away. He complained to Ju Erin, saying that he had been accused the last time as soon as things started. "I had to go through that ridiculous military-style camp, and they forced me to transfer all the way here." As Paljin took a step forward, Ju Erin stepped back, but she tripped over a stone behind her. She lost her balance and fell. Paljin sat down, leaned in close to her, and said, "Don't be afraid. I know what to do." Ju Erin was terrified. She couldn't speak, only could think to herself. Her body wouldn't move, and no sound came out. She desperately tried to force herself to say the words she didn't want, but Paljin didn't care. He only teased her more. "You're not resisting at all, huh? You actually want to enjoy this, don't you?" Just as Paljin was about to act, someone appeared. He looked up and asked, "Who are you?" Ju Erin couldn't hold back her emotions. Tears started to well up in her eyes, and she barely managed to say, "Do Wan. Do Wan, when did you get here?" Paljin glared at Do Wan, clearly irritated, and said, "Are you being stopped again before you even get started?" Do Wan, still in automatic combat mode, was now upgraded, automatically fighting and starting to battle a boss. Erin looked up, hesitated, and said, "Do Wan." Her eyes were sparkling, tears streaming down her cheeks. Paljin coldly addressed Do Wan, repeating, "Are you being stopped again before you even get started?" Without hesitation, Do Wan kicked Paljin, sending him flying. Paljin stood up, wiped the blood from his mouth, and said, "You're really rude." While they were still talking, before Paljin could finish his sentence, Do Wan charged at him. A series of punches landed on Paljin's face. Ju Erin stood there, her face showing clear shock. Do Wan didn't hold back. Paljin's face was already unrecognizable. Do Wan continued to attack him. The system screen flashed with a new message. This time, it was Do Wan's turn to respond. The first question appeared. "Who are you? Are you a god?" The computer screen responded, "I am the system manager." Do Wan wanted more information, so he said, "No, don't talk about that. Say something more specific." A beep sounded, and a new message appeared on the screen. "What's the next question?" Do Wan felt a little disappointed that he didn't get a more specific answer, but he didn't care too much. He moved on to the second question. "Why did you give me this power?" The computer screen quickly replied, "As I just mentioned, the beautiful memories of the two of you are appearing. The system continued, "It's not just because you were good to me. You have been good to me." Do Wan was surprised. This meant there was still another reason, but the system manager didn't explain everything. Instead, it said, "It's not yet time for me to tell you. Instead, I will reveal something to you. This place is a virtual space that recreates an actual room from the real world where everything began." After hearing this, Do Wan was stunned. He repeated, "This room is where everything began? Began with what?" Suddenly, the room shook and the chair moved. Do Wan looked up and asked, "What's happening? Why is this suddenly happening?" The system manager sent another message. "Time here passes at a different speed compared to reality. It's time for us to say goodbye." The whole room was shaking, and Do Wan felt like there were still so many things he wanted to ask. He said, "I still have so many questions." The system manager responded, "Once you gain this power, you'll be someone who can protect others." Do Wan desperately tried to hold on, but the system manager continued, "I hope you'll be able to protect someone this time." Back in the real world, Do Wan had regained his senses, his eyes full of life again. The system then announced that the match had ended. Do Wan wondered, was it over that quickly? Seeing Do Wan's lack of response, Paljun reacted by kicking him and shouting, "You scared the life out of me." Paljun stood up. Despite being hit multiple times, he didn't seem afraid. He kept his indifferent expression and said, "Do Wan, you look dangerous, kid." Do Wan, now fully alert, still didn't understand what was happening. He looked at Paljun in front of him and silently wondered, what just happened? What's going on with this ugly guy? At that moment, Ju Erin spoke up, "Do Wan, are you okay?" Do Wan looked at Erin, even more confused. He replied blankly, "Oh, Erin?" Then he thought, why is Erin here? The setting had changed and there weren't any of those other thugs around. Do Wan was completely lost, wondering what's happening. Did something happen while I was in auto battle mode? Suddenly, Do Wan felt something change in his body. He flinched, clutching his chest tightly. What was happening to him? It felt like his heart was about to explode. A warning appeared on the system. "You've pushed your body to its limit in auto battle mode. Please be aware of any backlash that may follow." Do Wan was puzzled. Backlash? His body was rapidly changing. He was breathing heavily. Paljun immediately rushed in, launching a powerful blow to Do Wan's stomach. Do Wan's vision blurred. In a daze, he saw Paljun attacking, his mouth running nonstop. "You were so tough earlier. What happened to you all of a sudden?" "Thanks then." Paljun aggressively attacked Do Wan. Do Wan could sense the danger because his body was in the worst shape. He fought back and shouted, "Shut your mouth." Do Wan realized he needed to end this quickly and get out of there. His nerves were all tense and he screamed in pain. It felt like his muscles were being torn apart. Paljun stared at Do Wan, confused, and asked, "Can you shut up for once? You're being way too loud." While speaking, Paljun kicked Do Wan, who was lying under his feet, pushing him down hard. Do Wan couldn't move, pinned beneath Paljun's foot. Paljun then pressed down harder and questioned Do Wan, "What's your relationship with him? Friends? Lovers? Or?" Ju Erin couldn't just watch anymore and rushed to stop Paljun. But before she could do anything, Paljun grabbed her. He agreed to stop. Ju Erin questioned him, knowing he couldn't hit her anymore. Paljun looked down at Do Wan, lying on the ground, and spoke with crude words. It's much more exciting to do this in front of someone. Do Wan remained motionless on the ground, his eyes filled with anger. As his hand gripped the dirt, Do Wan kept thinking about what he was doing. He remembered the conversation he had earlier with the system manager. After that talk, Do Wan realized he had become someone who could protect others. But now, lying there unable to move, Do Wan didn't know what exactly he was supposed to protect. He wondered, what is it that I'm supposed to protect? It felt just like before, back in his school days when he was bullied and couldn't do anything. He screamed, demanding his body to move. Do Wan used every ounce of strength he had, trying to make his body respond. Meanwhile, Paljun kept getting closer to Erin. He continued speaking in a crude tone. "We should finish what we started, shouldn't we?" Erin, terrified, shrank back, repeatedly pleading, "No, don't come near me. Please don't." A loud scream echoed. Do Wan stood in front of Erin, blocking her from Paljun. He turned to her and said softly, "It's okay, Erin. It's okay." Do Wan thought back to the past and blamed himself, feeling like he hadn't been able to do anything. He kept reminding himself, though, that this time he had to protect him. Despite his body feeling weak and in pain, Do Wan reassured him, saying nothing is going to happen. Do Wan was determined. This time he was going to succeed. Paljun didn't even look at Do Wan. He sneered and said, "You're standing in front of her. A clueless guy like you isn't going to do anything." Of course, Do Wan knew better than anyone how bad his condition was. After just standing for a moment, his body couldn't take it anymore. He started shaking and breathing became harder. He thought to himself, I have to leave. Standing is already hard enough, let alone fighting in this state. A moment later, Paljun's eyes widened in shock. He laughed and said it to Do Wan, "You shouldn't grab my neck and hit me from the start." but I guess it makes sense. You wouldn't be able to do that if I fought back. But you know one thing, but you don't know the other, huh? You think I'm just going to let you grab me? Right now, only I can use both my hands. With that, Paljin showed no mercy and punched Dowan in the face. Dowan felt frustrated but refused to admit it. Even though it was just a little, it felt like his arm was about to fall off. Right now, he couldn't even throw a punch. With his current state, would he be able to use his skills? Paljin kept attacking, clearly enjoying himself. He taunted, "You can barely stand, yet you still try to act tough." Dowan thought it through. If he used his skill, there was a good chance his body wouldn't handle it, just like before. Paljin, still mocking him, said, "Or maybe you want to join in. That's why you're acting like this?" Dowan made up his mind. What did any of that matter right now? He activated his attack skill, and with one hand, grabbed Paljin's collar, catching him by surprise. Paljin sneered, "What's this? You clench your fist just to do this? If you can stop me, then I'll stop." Dowan thought, isn't one hand good enough? Paljin landed another direct punch to Dowan's face, mocking him further. "You don't even have a hand to stop me." But Dowan wasn't done. He used a new skill, targeting a weak spot, launching a series of attacks. He hit Paljin, and though it landed, the blow wasn't enough to take him down. Paljin immediately retaliated. Suddenly, Paljin realized something. His fist had struck Dowan. Dowan's punch was also charged with skill and thrown. Dowan pushed himself a bit more, his skill's power growing stronger. Dowan landed a decisive blow on Paljin. Dowan was really pushing himself. He silently thought to himself that every time he raised his fist, it felt like his muscles were tearing apart, but just a little bit more. Paljin was continuously attacked over a short period of time. He wanted Dowan to stop, but Dowan didn't back down. He unleashed all of his strength, shouting, and the power for his skill was replenished. Dowan delivered a powerful blow, fully unleashing his strength. Paljin collapsed to the ground, and the system announced a boss monster. Paljin has been defeated. For Dowan, the system reported, "You've cleared the King's 2 dungeon." Dowan was breathing heavily, his mouth stained red with blood. He couldn't take it anymore and collapsed to the ground. "Aaron? Arin!" Arin, worried, rushed over, calling Dowan's name. Dowan's body was trembling, sweat dripping off him onto the floor. He wondered if he had pushed his body too far. But Arin was fine. She was incredibly lucky. After confirming that Arin was safe, Dowan passed out. Arin quickly sat down beside him, her concern clear as she kept calling his name. Dowan's vision started to blur. The next day, Dowan suddenly woke up, seeming to be scared of something. He gasped for air and looked around. Seeing his familiar surroundings, he asked himself, "Is this the dorm?" He reached out and looked at his hand, wrapped in bandages, and sighed in relief. "Thank goodness I'm not dead. Yesterday, I really thought I was going to die, but then something felt off. The hand under the blanket was moving. Dowan stared at it, confused, and wondered, what am I holding? He lifted his hand in front of him. It was another hand. Dowan was bewildered, his throat only able to produce a few faint sounds. In his leg, there was someone else. What does this mean? What happened last night? At this moment, the person lying next to him was Aaron. Dowan looked at Aaron beside him, immediately sitting up, panic-stricken, not understanding what was going on. His face turned bright red. He stammered, "What is this? The automatic battle ended a long time ago." Arin, likely startled awake by Dowan's voice, sat up. Still half asleep, she asked him, "You're awake?" Dowan became even more flustered. After some hesitation, he finally managed to ask, "Arin, why are you here? Did something happen?" Arin turned the question back on him. "Oh, Dowan, don't you remember anything?" This only made Dowan more confused. He thought to himself, what is going on here? He let out a long sigh. Arin, on the other hand, remained calm and explained everything to Dowan. "Well, it's not surprising that you can't remember. Something happened last night, didn't it?" Arin recalled the moment when Dowan had fainted. After Dowan passed out, Jihan suddenly ran up from somewhere. Jihan took a quick look at Dowan and came to a conclusion. He must be overwhelmed, exhausted. Luckily, it's not too serious. Aaron felt they should take Dowan to the hospital first. Jihan then said, "Dowan just got into a fight with some thugs. If we take him to the hospital like this and they find out he was involved in the fight, it could be a real problem. Plus, he left the school tour without permission." They both realized that taking Dowan to the hospital right away would be risky, so they decided to take him back to their place and give him first aid. Dowan was taken to a room and Jihan was giving him first aid. Aaron, a bit surprised, asked, "You know how to do this?" Jihan replied, "Yeah, I learned it at my tutoring center." Back to the present, Aaron was still explaining to Dowan, "I wasn't sure when you wake up, so I've been here with you since this morning. But I must have fallen asleep too," she added. Dowan let out a relieved sigh and said, "Oh, that's what happened. I'm glad." Arin continued, I already explained everything to the teacher, so you don't have to worry. Do Wan politely thanked her. Arin studied him for a moment before saying, wait, but Do Wan, the wounds on your body are almost completely gone now. Do Wan took the bandages off his face and looked over his body. He was a bit confused and thought, how is this possible? Last night, it hurt so badly, I thought I might die. He moved his arms and legs a bit and feeling fine, happily said, looks like I don't need to go to the hospital after all. Arin felt relieved by that. Do Wan noticed that his condition seemed even better than usual and wondered how this could have happened. Sitting on the bed, he continued moving his arms and legs to check. Then something clicked in his mind. His eyes widened as he suddenly remembered something from early this morning. In the room, Do Wan's voice echoed as he spoke to himself. Did I make it back to where I'm staying? His hands were covered in wounds, making it hard to move them even a little. He still struggled. His whole body was battered, and his breathing was labored. Do Wan felt extremely thirsty, so thirsty that he couldn't even speak. Suddenly, a light appeared in the air. Do Wan stared at the light, puzzled. What's that? What kind of light is that? Could it be the glowing light people see when they're about to die? A door to heaven? What is it? The light vanished, leaving a bundle of keys floating in midair. The system then announced the rewards for clearing the dungeon, a golden key and a silver key. Do Wan stared at the bundle of keys, thinking keys. What's this? They look so beautiful. Is it time to use them now? He reached out to grab the keys, feeling like they were calling to him. Then it clicked. He remembered. Yes, he had used the key while half asleep. The system announced, restoring passive skill, mana recovery speed greatly increased while sleeping. Do Wan guessed that this passive skill must have helped him recover. He smiled as he looked at the system interface, thinking, finally, I have a recovery skill. Even though it only works while I'm asleep, this is incredibly useful. Then he wondered what kind of skill did the golden key have. Arin was utterly amazed and exclaimed, incredible. Does sleeping a lot make you recover that quickly? It was already 4 p.m. Do Wan couldn't believe how long he had been asleep. He asked Arin, so where are Jian and the others now? Today's schedule only has one activity, she replied. So right now, everyone is. They're out having fun at Kunjulen now. At Kunjulen, Jian is sitting on a row of benches by the roadside. Minnie walks up to him a little shy and says, I just bought this, before handing Jian a cotton candy. Jian accepts it, making sure to thank Minnie. Minnie explains, well, you helped me yesterday. Their conversation feels a little awkward, and they sit in silence for a moment. Finally, Jian and Minnie end up walking around together looking at the animals. They're still a bit shy with each other. Back at home, Do Wan is pretty sure Minnie and Jian are out together. He also figures Minnie probably wants to repay Jian for helping her at the dance performance yesterday. Do Wan silently grumbles about Jian, that Jian, leaving his friend here and going off to have fun alone. Just wait, I'll make sure to. Arin cuts off Do Wan's thoughts, saying, how about we go eat something? Do Wan immediately drops his complaints about Jian. Instead, he thinks to himself, I'll definitely make it up to him. At a small restaurant, Do Wan and Arin walk in. Arin, a little disappointed, says, it's a shame. At times like this, we should be eating octopus salad to recharge, but there's no place around here that sells it. Do Wan, not too picky, replies, it's okay. This dish is perfect for recharging anyway. In his mind, Do Wan thinks spending time alone with Arin during this school trip is one of the rewards for getting through that dungeon. The staff brings out the food and the donkatsu arrives. The meal looks delicious and beautifully arranged on the table. After the food was brought out, the staff added, the side dish with sauteed cucumbers will be out shortly. Do Wan suddenly felt guilty and said to Arin, oh, it's my fault. You couldn't go to Kunjul after all. He thought she probably wanted to go have fun too. Arin responded, it's okay. I couldn't go to the amusement park anyway. Do Wan, curious, asked, why couldn't you go? Arin didn't hide anything and told him, I've mentioned this before, I really hate loud music. It's kind of embarrassing. She continued, when I was little, I got lost at an amusement park with my family. I was running around in the crowd, screaming and looking for my parents for a long time, but no adults seemed to notice me crying. The loud music blaring from the speakers made it even harder for me to find them. I was so scared. Maybe that's why every time I hear loud music now, I feel afraid. Arin went on, so it's fine. After that, whenever my family went on trips, we usually went to the mountains or the beach. I preferred stargazing there instead of playing in an amusement park. She paused for a moment and added, after high school, I couldn't go because I was too busy. Do Wan understood immediately. He remembered Arin had once mentioned wanting to go to an observatory, probably to see the stars, which is why she had gone alone that night. Even though Arin didn't like amusement parks, she still felt a bit disappointed that she couldn't see the fireworks there. After chatting for a while, the conversation wrapped up. Arin noticed Do Wan had been listening intently and casually said, Donkatsu's all melted now, let's eat before it gets worse.